Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is part 1 of our story. If you like this what if story and want to see part 2, let me know in the comments below. Before we start, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends. Also, check the description for more great content and my playlist. This story was posted by 𝚑𝚑_roses on Wattpad. Now, let's start. Come on, 𝚑𝚑𝚑𝚑 Bakugo yelled. 7:10 It was a warm summer day, and a young group of about 3 kids had gathered in front of their neighborhood's park. This was before all the quirks, before Bakugo had gotten his or Midoriya had discovered that he didn't have one. This was when all men and women were equal according to them. 170, I'm coming, Katsuki. 𝚑𝚑𝚑 yelled back as she ran towards him, Midoriya trailing behind her. 2:17 Once the 3 had met at the park, they decided to go onto the swings and just have fun like normal kids without quirks. 𝚑𝚑𝚑 had gotten off and decided to go onto the slide, climbing to the top while Bakugo and Midoriya was still swinging. Suddenly, after a slight pause after sitting to go slide down, she felt a rough push, sending her down the slide. Her foot got caught on the side, causing her to tumble halfway down the slide. She yelped as she landed at the bottom onto the rough mulch. Midoriya had noticed this and jumped off the swing, running over to help his possibly hurt friend. Bakugo had soon noticed he was alone and went over to the other 2 to see what was going on. 147, should have been faster. The kid from the top yelled as tears started to well in 𝚑𝚑𝚑's eyes. 407 You're mean. 𝚑𝚑𝚑 yelled back at the kid who had shoved her. Midoriya and Bakugo had then helped 𝚑𝚑 onto her feet and away from the end of the slide. Soon, the kid from the top slid down and got into 𝚑𝚑's face. 166 What did you say? He puffed up his chest, becoming intimidating. Soon the 3 realized that this kid had to be at least 2 years older than the 3 of them. 221 She said you're mean. Bakugo repeated to the bully. 171 Shut up short stuff. The bully sniped at Bakugo, causing Bakugo to shove the bully. You've made a mistake, kid. 234 The bully cracked his knuckles, coming at Bakugo when suddenly, Bakugo held up his hands to protect himself, causing a small explosion to occur. The bully saw this and just walked away, realizing that this kid had just triggered his quirk. 264 Kaken, your hands. Midoriya shouted, pointing to the small explosions occurring in the young boy's hands. I think you have a quirk. 𝚑𝚑𝚑 exclaimed, jumping up and down in excitement. That's so cool. 40 It is, the youngish blonde boy yelled proudly. 2 What's all the fuss about? The question was then followed by Midoriya's and Bakugo's mothers. 185 Kaken got his quirk, mommy. Midoriya told his mother. Oh boy, Bakugo's mother sighed. I knew it was almost his time. 171 Look mommy. Bakugo proudly showed his mother his hands, creating little explosions for his mother. My hands light up. 401 Then 𝚑𝚑𝚑 looked at her scraped up hands, wondering what her quirk would be. The next day after Bakugo had gained his quirk, the 3 had gone to school. The teachers and other students were fawning over him while he had this big, proud smile on his face. 𝚑𝚑𝚑 and Midoriya were trying to get to him to talk to him, but he just blew them off. 222 At recess that day, the 2 were trying to play with Bakugo, but everyone was just crowding him, trying to see his new quirk. Katsuki, 𝚑𝚑𝚑 started after finally getting through the crowd. Do you want to play with Izuku and I? 80 He just looked at her for a moment, then told her, not now 𝚑𝚑𝚑, these people want to see the future #1 hero. 402 𝚑𝚑𝚑 then just stared for a moment, walking away sadly and past Midoriya, who was trying to get Bakugo's attention, and sat on the swing. Why doesn't he want to play with me? She thought as she slowly swung back and forth. Maybe it's his quirk, everyone likes him so much better because of it. If I ever get a quirk. 2 I don't want to be like him. 533 10 years later. 81 It was just another day at 𝚑𝚑𝚑 Junior High. The teacher was talking about futures. That was when Bakugo had jumped up on his desk after the class had caused a ruckus with their quirks. All except Midoriya and 𝚑𝚑𝚑. Midoriya didn't have a quirk ever since he found out when he was 4, which was when Bakugo had gotten his quirk and 𝚑𝚑𝚑 had started to become distant, he discovered he would never get one. 𝚑𝚗𝚐𝚗 on the other hand, did have a quirk. But hers was different from Bakugo's and the rest of the class's quirks. She didn't show it off to them. She was scared she'd be like Bakugo if she showed off her quirk, that she just didn't show it and practiced in secret, deciding that she wanted to go to you. But nobody else knew that. 103. Oh yeah, Midoriya and Ellen, the teacher started. You want to go there too, right? 171. Midoriya just sank into his desk as Bakugo froze, slowly turning to Midoriya in anger. Yn just nodded silently. The class laughed at Midoriya at the ridiculous idea of a quirkless kid going to an elite hero school. 6. You won't get in Deku, Bakugo spat. You don't have a quirk. Just like Yn over there. 300. He pointed to Yn, who got red and mumbled quietly that she did have a quirk. 20. Wait, what? Bakugo froze, looking over at Yn. Since when did you have a quirk, Yn? 298. The teacher then told them to quiet down, continuing with the rest of the class day. After class, Yn stayed behind as she saw Bakugo and his gang roughing up Midoriya, as Bakugo had Midoriya's 13th notebook in his hands. 51. Katsuki, leave him alone, Yn started as he blew up the notebook, promptly throwing it out the window. 14. He just ignored her as she looked out the window, watching the notebook fall into the courtyard fountain. 21. Here's a word of advice, nerd, Bakugo started while putting his hand on Midoriya's shoulder. Don't even think about applying. Or else. 24. Leave, Yn gritted through her teeth. 17. That goes for you too, Yn, Bakugo started while turning to her. Don't tap. 24. Yn then looked up at him, her eyes beginning to turn a bright, glowing shade of blue. Get out. 554. Bakugo stopped, seeing her eyes, and turned to his gang. Let's go. 331. You know, if you want to be a hero there might actually be another way, Bakugo started again, turning to Midoriya. Just pray that you'll be born with a quirk in your next life, and take a swan dive off the roof of the building. 619. Midoriya then turned towards Bakugo, looking angry. But once he saw the small explosions, he stopped him his tracks. 1 and then held up her hand, it starting to turn a shade of blue, like her eyes. I said, get out, Katsuki. 179. They then promptly left, finally leaving Midoriya and Yn alone. Are you okay? She asked, turning to Midoriya. Kinda, he started, shrugging and looking at her now normal hand. I didn't know you had a quirk. 2. Yeah, I don't really show it off. Yn shrugged. I've always been scared that I'll turn out like Katsuki. 79. When did you get it? He asked, as they started walking to the courtyard to retrieve the notebook. Not long after Katsuki got his quirk. Well, it's cool that you're quirk it, he started, not realizing what it actually was. Wait, what is it? I call it energy, Yn started, looking at the hand she used. Basically, I can manipulate energy from either my body or outdoor light. It's stronger in the daytime because of the sun, and once it's night, I'll usually use either the moonlight, if there is any, my own body's energy, or a combination of both. 236. Wow, that's so cool. Midoriya beamed, seeming to forget what had just happened. That was when they got to the fountain, seeing the fish nibbling on the notebook. Well, there goes my dreams, into fish food. 127. I'm sorry, Yn said, rubbing the back of her neck. I don't know why he's like that. 10. It's okay, Midoriya responded. I'll see you around, Yeah, see you, she said, turning the opposite direction from Midoriya. Yn began walking towards the entrance gate, towards the convenience store so she could pick up a couple items for her family. She had passed one of the corners when suddenly someone had grabbed her arm, pulling her into the nearby corner. 49. She yelped, a hand soon covering her mouth. Her eyes focused quickly as she soon saw that the person who grabbed her was just Bakugo. 484. Why didn't you tell me you had a quirk? He asked in a hushed manner, taking his hand from her mouth as Y's back was to the wall. 139. Because you don't seem to care about anyone other than yourself, Yn reasoned in a snappish tone. 197. He opened his mouth to respond, closing it quickly. She continued to tell him The day after you got your quirk you seemed like you're better than everyone else. I don't want to be that way. 2. Well, glowing doesn't really get you anywhere. He shrugged, backing away a little bit. So, you're an energy manipulator. 98. How did you? I overheard you with Deku, he told her, putting his hands in his pockets. Why didn't you ever tell me, or even him? 126. 𝚬𝚘 just stood there, silent. Bakugo then realized how much he missed having her around. 𝚬𝚘-488 Katsuki, come on man. Soon his 2 goons came running up to the 2 of them, seeing 𝚬𝚘 there. Why is she here? 128. I just wanted to ask her something. Bakugo snapped at them, walking away with them soon after, leaving 𝚬𝚘 alone. For that was the last moment 𝚬𝚘 had before using her quirk in front of others. 𝚬𝚘 was walking up the stairs to the top of the building her family lived in. It was a cheap one that was downtown. Once she reached the top, she pulled out her notebook, beginning her homework when she suddenly heard a massive explosion. 57. She paused, thinking she was hearing things when suddenly she heard another one, and it was louder. She put her notebook in her bag, getting up and going to the edge to see where the explosions were coming from. Then she saw it. 9. A huge sludge monster, causing explosions and lots of damage. Whoa, she muttered. 47. Then it got closer, causing the ground to shake and 𝚬𝚘 was knocked off her feet. She quickly got up to see fires all around the area of her building. It was so fast. For she looked over the edge at the sludge monster, seeing a familiar ash-blonde head within the sludge. No, she muttered as sweat began to run down her face. No, it can't be him. 148. Then it clicked, the explosions and the fires. Bakugo was in that thing. 53. 𝚬𝚘 just covered her mouth, tears welling in her eyes. Then she saw all of the pro-heroes starting to gather. But it looked like they couldn't do anything. 𝚬𝚘 looked at her hands, realizing something she discovered the other day. 39. A couple days ago. For alright, you getting this, Dad? 𝚬𝚘 asked her father, preparing herself to try her new ability as she climbed up a tree. 74. But just be careful, we don't know how far your quirk can go, he warned, holding a first aid kit against his chest with one hand and holding his phone with his camera out in the other. 91. I'll be fine, Dad, she assured him, reaching the top. Then 𝚬𝚘 jumped from the tree, her eyes beginning to glow the light blue they did in daylight, and it happened. She created what looked like a force field, but she was standing on it. 34. Oh my God, 𝚬𝚘, you did it. 𝚬𝚘's dad exclaimed, letting out the breath he had been holding. 11. Yes. Then 𝚬𝚘 began walking and jumping around, creating a field to walk on everywhere she went until she reached the ground. She giggled as she exclaimed, I wonder how far it'll go, Dad. 234. Me too, sweetie. Me too. 52. The present. 4. 𝚬𝚘 decided within seconds to jump over the edge of the building, not caring if it was dangerous. She created the field after the first jump, then she began running towards the monster, still high up. 62. Let me go. Bakugo screamed as he attempted to free himself from the sludge monster. You've got so much power, the sludge snarled. I've really hit the jackpot. With a quirk like yours under my control, I can take All Might down with one punch. 195. 𝚬𝚘 held her hands together, then starting to glow a bright blue, and she shot him with a powerful energy blast, one that was enough to knock the sludge off balance just a little. 59. The sludge looked up at 𝚬𝚘, seeing her getting angry and her eyes glowing blue. Let him go, she screamed, jumping down and hitting him with a more powerful blast this time. 27. A child, he snarled once again. Really? 77. As Bakugo struggled, the sludge threw a swing at all the pro-heroes, trying to hit 𝚬𝚘. But, thankfully, she was able to throw a bubble-like force field around herself, but it was still knocked to the ground. 6. She threw down her force field, just to jump up and create steps once again, running to the back of the sludge. 2. What do I do? She thought. Kid, what are you doing? One of the pros yelled to her. Get out of here. 84. Suddenly the sludge swung once again at the hero that yelled to 𝚬𝚘, but she created a force field around him just in time. 1. No, you idiot, another pro yelled, but this time not to 𝚬𝚘. Stop, you're gonna get yourself killed. 68 𝚬𝚐𝚗 looked down and saw Midoriya running towards the sludge monster. No, Izuku, she yelled to him, but he just kept running. You're toast, kid, the sludge bellowed, reaching for him. 47 Midoriya then threw his books, one of them hitting the sludge's eye and allowing Bakugo to get his head out and breathe once again. 12 𝚑𝚗𝚗. Midoriya yelled, clawing at the sludge. What the heck? Why are you here? Bakugo yelled to Midoriya. I don't know. My legs, they just started moving. Midoriya yelled to him. 𝚑𝚗𝚗, I couldn't just stand there and watch you die. 187 Izuku. Katsuki. YN yelled, finally pulling one last blast at him, using up almost all her energy, seeing that the pros were moving in. 7 Get the boy and girl. This thing will kill them. One of them yelled. 88 Finally All Might came and said something to Midoriya that YN couldn't hear. Her vision was blurring from the excessive use of energy. All Might gave a huge smash, knocking away the monster from Bakugo. YN created a force field around herself, Bakugo, Midoriya, and some of the civilians, since the force was so strong with the last bit of her energy. 19 Finally it was over and YN let down her shields, stumbling over to Bakugo and Midoriya as it started to rain. Holy Sia, he changed the weather, one pro hero stated in awe, watching as the clouds moved around. 59 Then the crowd cheered for All Might, seeing the victory. Katsuki, Izuku. YN yelled as she fell beside the two boys on the ground. 66 Soon after, the sludge pieces were collected into custody and Midoriya was chewed out by the heroes while Bakugo was praised for his bravery. YN was in the middle, while being told that was dangerous, she was praised for her insane quirk. But she couldn't really hear or see much, the exhaustion from the fight getting to her. It was one of the biggest fights she'd seen and been in, and the most she used her quirk. 71 Then, nothing. The heroes looked over her, seeing that she had passed out. Midoriya and Bakugo soon ran over to see what had happened and saw YN on the ground. 64 YN Bakugo yelled, pushing through the crowd to get to her. Midoriya soon followed. Bakugo picked up her head, putting it in his lap while the heroes tried to get some paramedics over. YN woke up quickly after she felt enough sunlight and a little shut-eye. She opened up her eyes to see the scarlet ones right over her head. 185 Are you okay? Midoriya asked, concerned. 18 She nodded, getting up slowly. The paramedics checked her over and saw that she was okay but needed rest. Midoriya had offered to walk YN to her grandparents since Bakugo was swarmed with reporters and her home was destroyed in the attack, her dad texting her to go there and they will see her there too. Midoriya had offered to walk YN to her grandparents since Bakugo was swarmed with reporters and her home was destroyed in the attack, her dad texting her to go there and they will see her there. 88 You've got insane control over your power, Midoriya stated, seeing YN was growing more lethargic with each step. Thank you for shielding 𝚑𝚗𝚗 and I. 16 She looked up from the ground to him. How did you dash? I saw you doing the same for yourself and some civilians, also it was the same shade of blue as your eyes when you use your quirk. 54 She scratched her head. Wow, that's impressive, and you're welcome. Deku. The two heard, as they turned around to see Bakugo running up to him. 𝚑𝚗𝚗 Katsuki. Midoriya and YN said at the same time as Bakugo ran up to them. Listen, I would never ask for a weakling like you to help me, he began, breathing between his words. Don't think you can look down on me. Here. Got that. I was fine by myself, you're just a quirkless failure who just cut it as a rent-a-cop. You didn't help me. 170 Midoriya just looked at him while YN's mouth opened in shock. You're kidding me, YN started, taking a step forward towards Bakugo but stumbling. Look, I'll take her home. Her grandparents is closer to my house, Deku, Bakugo said, taking YN's arm as she got her footing. 222 Okay, see you, YN, Midoriya said as the two walked away. 95 As Bakugo and YN were walking, she looked up at him and he sighed, stopping at one of the benches to let her catch her breath. 1 Why are you like this? She asked after a minute of silence. 6 Because I'm not weak, Bakugo stated. Also, thank you. 428 YN looked up at him from the ground, hearing those shocking words. For what? 1 4 For the force field and the blasts and trying to save me, he told her, looking up from the ground as well. I didn't know you were so powerful. Me either, YN sighed. Why didn't you thank Izuku? 5. Because his 𝚑𝚑𝚘 𝗔𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘 stop, just stop. YN put up her hand, wobbling up from the bench. I'll walk home on my own. I'm glad you're okay. 121 YN. Bakugo breathed, watching as she walked home on her own. It had been 10 months since the sludge monster and YN had been practicing every day for hours, gaining more stamina and control over her quirk and realizing how versatile it truly was. She didn't talk to Bakugo much since the incident in school because she felt disgusted with how he acted towards Midoriya, but she was glad he was okay. 45 Midoriya, on the other hand, she couldn't talk to much because he was exhausted and working all of the time. She wanted to ask what was going on, but never found the time between school, practice and his practice. 30 before she had known it, 10 months passed with barely any social interaction between the three of them. It was entrance exam day and she felt like her quirk was prepared but she wasn't. YN knew that Midoriya and Bakugo were going to be there. On the bus ride to the facility to sign in, she noticed a familiar ash-blonde set of hair. Katsuki, she thought. She wanted to talk to him, but couldn't move her body towards him. The bus the two were on was filled to possibly close to the max capacity. YN was stuck standing up due to almost being late that morning while seeing that Bakugo was sitting not that far from her. At one of the red lights, the bus had stopped abruptly, causing someone near YN to knock into her, making her lose her balance and her grip on the handbar and falling backwards, only to be caught by someone just in time. 83 You should really learn how to stand, a familiar voice slightly snarled in her ear. Next time, someone might not catch you. 179 Thanks, YN sighed, as she had been holding her breath since losing her balance. She turned to see Bakugo a little too close to her face, causing her to go almost beet red. 132 Then the bus started moving again before YN could fully get up, causing the two to fall back into where Bakugo was sitting previously, YN still in his arms. The two looked almost beet red as one of the passengers awed them. 210 Bakugo then promptly dropped YN, causing her to fall to the floor of the bus. The driver then stopped again, announcing the two's destination. 190 Finally, Bakugo grumbled, hurrying to get off the bus. 14 YN got up and quickly got off, beginning to walk into the big building. She noticed Bakugo had probably snarled something at Midoriya while passing by him as he looked flustered once Bakugo was gone. She promptly went up and greeted him, giving him a small smile. 8 You ready for this? She asked. 26 I think so, Midoriya answered, looking pumped yet nervous. 10 Good. See you inside, Izuku. YN told him, walking inside as he stayed standing there. 𝚑𝚑𝚘𝚑𝚘 was talking about the exam, discussing the robots and how people were separated by 𝚑𝚑𝚘𝚑. 𝚑𝚑𝚘 was talking about the exam, discussing the robots and how people were separated by 𝚑𝚑𝚘𝚑. YN was sitting between Bakugo and Midoriya, looking over at their cards. Midoriya was in Stadium B, while Bakugo was in Stadium A. YN was nervous to see if she got one of their stadiums, eventually looking at hers, seeing she was in Stadium A with Bakugo. 61 Hey, look Katsuki, we're in the same area, YN exclaimed quietly, pointing between her card and his. You're gonna lose, Bakugo stated in a flat tone, leaving her and Midoriya, who heard this, dumbfounded. 102 Soon after, each group was bussed over to their assigned stadium to change and do the exam. YN had changed into a baggy sweatshirt, shorts, and tennis shoes with long socks. She had also pulled back her hair because she had discovered that it takes more energy if she has her hair down in her face. 163 Once she had gotten out and stretched, she saw Bakugo in a black tank top and cargo briefs. 302 I guess he's been working out, she thought, seeing the muscles he's gained since the last time they talked. 152 Bakugo looked over, seeing YN staring at his arms. What? 8 You've been working out, she stated in a nonchalant tone. 8 You don't say, he sneered. Let me guess, you've been working too. 253 I mean, kind of. YN shrugged. 3 Then the countdown, not that there was one, started and the gate soon opened. Bakugo was off, using his explosions to propel himself into the air. YN used her force fields as stepping stones, running into the air and getting a slight boost. 16 She went off into another direction from him, stopping once she saw a three-pointer walking around. She quickly shot it with an energy blast, breaking it instantly. After a while of earning points, YN had maybe around 70 points by that point. As she got closer to what sounded like explosions, she saw that one of the students had tripped and was about to get crushed by a three-pointer. 50 She jumped off of her stepping stone, creating a bubble field around her and the other student. As the machine pounded against the bubble field, it started to shine brighter. YN looked at the bubble, seeing the shining, and threw her arms, causing the bubble to cause a blast against the machine that was just as strong as the force hit against her. For kinetic and potential energy. YN mumbled under her breath. That's right. It's still energy. 190 Little did YN know was that Bakugo and the judges were watching the defense and attack. Bakugo stared at YN, realizing what just happened, but just as he was about to continue, time was up. YN helped up the student, them thanking her in response. She then put her hands on her knees, breathing from the use of energy and the blasts. 8 Are you okay? Bakugo asked, seeming very slightly concerned. 182 I'm fine, YN responded, standing up and looking at him. That last blast was one hell of a hit, Bakugo said, putting his hand on her shoulder. 116 Yeah it was, YN responded, sighing and heading for the exit. Good job, man. 1 week later. 75 YN was sitting at her desk in her kind of new home since the building had to be rebuilt from the attack. She was doing some homework when her mother banged at the door furiously. She turned around, beckoning her mother to come in. 33 It's from you, she exclaimed. No kidding, YN chuckled nervously as she took it from her. 63 We'll be waiting outside while you look, her dad said from the doorframe of her room. Then her mom exited and closed the door. 114 YN stared at the letter for a second, finally opening it, seeing a little disc and placing it on her desk. Hello YN, the hologram greeted. Wait, that's All Might. YN thought as a smile came across her face. 7 You have passed the written exam with a high score, All Might informed her. But for your practical exam you earned 73 villain points. But that's not all the points you earned. 6 YN quirked her eyebrow, wondering what the other points were that she earned. 1 You have also earned 15 rescue points for your acts of bravery throughout the exam, which means you passed with 88 points and flying colors as you placed first in the practical exam. Welcome to you. All Might finished as the hologram ended. 632 YN sat there for a moment, letting the words sink in. I made it. With the highest practical exam score. What? She thought as she let out a huge breath she had been holding. 10 She opened the door, seeing her parents anxiously waiting. She gave them a smile, and they screamed in joy and hugged her. Once YN had told her parents about the scores, it seemed like time flew by, and in came the first day at UE. It was going to be weird starting a new school after an intense entrance exam. She hadn't had a chance to contact Midoriya or Bakugo since receiving the results. For as YN was walking to her class, she looked at the schedule sent to her a few days prior and saw which class she was in. 1A seemed to be flowing with fresh faces. She didn't really recognize or know anybody until she entered the class, hearing a familiar voice already disagreeing with someone. 7 She saw Bakugo sitting with his feet up on a desk, something that he did everywhere he went, and saw some guy with glasses and dark-colored hair arguing with him. She sighed, shaking her head at the ridiculousness. Really Katsuki, on the first day? She shook her head, crossing her arms as she walked up to his desk. You're so disrespectful. The other student yelled. YN put her hand on the other student's shoulder. I'm sorry about him, he's always been like this. If it makes you feel better. No it does not, but thank you for trying. He turned to her. I'm Tenya Ida. 180 YNLN, and Miss Sunshine over here is Katsuki Bakugo, YN introduced, pointing to Bakugo. 92 What did you call me? Bakugo snapped, falling backwards in his chair. 319 Ida seemed to rush over to the door to speak with someone. YN saw who it was and ran over quickly. 1 Oh hey Izuku. Y greeted brightly. 10 Hey Yn, Midoriya greeted. Oh this is Ochiko Uraraka. 124 Nice to meet you, Yn said as she put out her hand. 6 Nice to meet you too, so are you his? Uraraka started, pointing between the two. Girlfriend. 314 No. Midoriya and Yn denied at the same time, shaking their heads and laughing a little. We're childhood friends, Midoriya explained. Besides, she and Kaken have a thing going on. 1K Wait what? Yn retorted, looking bewildered with a slight pink tint along her cheeks. 57 Then Midoriya saw something behind Uraraka, and when the group's eyes followed, they saw what looked like a big yellow caterpillar. This turned out to be the class's homeroom teacher, Mr. Aizawa, or Eraserhead. 220 Get on your gym clothes and go outside, he said lethargically as he pulled out some uniforms from his bright yellow sleeping bag. 17 I wonder what we're doing, Yn questioned to Bakugo quietly as they left the classroom. Shut up and maybe you'll find out, he sniped quietly. Also, you won't be ahead of me again. 103 Yn paused for a moment before realizing that he meant the practical exam where she got first while Bakugo got second. 2 OCRP. Yn thought. He's not going to let me win anything because of that stupid exam. 96 He's not going to let me win anything because of that stupid exam. Once the class got to the field, Yn looked and realized that it looked like a baseball diamond. Wait a Quirk assessment test, the class asked simultaneously. But orientation, we're gonna miss it, Uraraka pointed out. 159 If you really want to make the big leagues, you can't waste your time on pointless stuff, Mr. Aizawa stated, leaving the class to gasp and ultimately be shocked. Here at UA, we're not tethered to traditions, that means I get to run my class however I see fit. You've been taking standardized tests most of your lives, but you never got to use your quirks in physical exams before. The country's still trying to pretend we're all created equal by not letting those with the most power excel. It's not rational, maybe the Ministry of Education will learn. 29 He turned towards Yn. Alan, you managed to get the most points on the entrance exam. What was your farthest distance thrown with a softball in junior high? Mr. Aizawa asked her, holding a softball. 14 Maybe around 60 meters, Yn answered in an unsure tone. 108 Right, now come do it with your quirk, he told her, holding the ball out to her. Yn came up and took the ball from him, walking to the circle. Anything goes, just stay in the circle, Mr. Aizawa told her. Yn tossed the ball up a little, enveloping it with a light blue energy. Then she threw it, causing a huge bang and bright light, sending the ball soaring into the sky and leaving a faint glowing trail. 54 All of you need to know your maximum capabilities, it's the most rational way of figuring out your potential as a pro hero, Mr. Aizawa stated, holding a distance measuring device, showing that Yn had thrown the ball around 715 meters. 51 Whoa. 715 meters, are you kidding me? One of student with blonde hair with a black lighting streak, 𝚑𝚑𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚑, stated rather shocked. 241 I wanna go, that looks fun. Another student, one with pink skin and hair, 𝚑𝚑𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚑, squealed as she clapped her hands together. 124 That's what I'm talking about, using our quirks as much as we want, one student with strange elbows and black hair, 𝚑𝚑𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚑, excitedly commented. 117 So this looks fun, here. Mr. Aizawa asked. You have 3 years here to become a hero. You think it's all gonna be games and playtime? 60 The class started to look nervous as Yn walked back into the large group, rubbing her throwing arm. That's when she noticed Mr. Aizawa's terrifying smirk. 130 Today you'll compete in 8 physical tests to gauge your potential. Whoever comes in last has none, and will be expelled immediately, he stated, leaving the class in full shock this time. Like I said, I get to decide how this class runs. Understand? If that's a problem, you can head home right now. 7 Some students, including Bakugo, smirked, knowing that they would be fine. Yn looked over at Midoriya, seeing that he looked really nervous and looking at his hand. You can't send one of us home, Uraraka protested. I mean, we just got here. Even if it wasn't the first day, that's not fair. 333 When you think natural disasters are, or power-hungry villains, Mr. Aizawa started, making YN think about the sludge monster almost a year back. Or catastrophic accidents that wipe out whole cities. No, the world is full of unfairness. It's a hero's job to combat that unfairness. If you want to be a pro, you're gonna have to push yourself to the brim. For the next 3 years you will throw you one terrible hardship after another, so go beyond, plus ultra style. 49 Then he pointed his finger to them, signaling to bring it on. Show me it's not a mistake of you being here. 21 YN looked over to Bakugo, who was stretching his arm out and smirking. Now then, Mr. Aizawa started once again. We're just wasting time by talking, let the games begin. 41 Game on, YN thought. 18 First was the 50-meter dash and YN watched as there were two going against each other each time and one of them would have three due to the odd number. First was the 50-meter dash and YN watched as there were two going against each other each time and one of them would have three due to the odd number. She'd watch as some would do better than others. Ida seemed to be in his element with his quirk. One classmate seemed to have a belly button laser, which was glamorous. 269 Shooting my beam for more than a second hurts my tummy, a student named 𝚑𝚗𝚗𝚑 stated. 187 What a tool, YN and probably a lot of other classmates thought. 37 YN was against both Bakugo and Midoriya. When it started, Bakugo started running, eventually yelling burst speed, as he put his arms behind him and launched himself forward using his quirk. YN followed close behind by creating fields to launch herself off of. Bakugo finished at 5:13 seconds while YN finished at 5:3 seconds. Midoriya finished with just a little above 7 seconds. 92 Bakugo looked at his smoking hands. My power has more uses than anyone else in this school. 79 YN snorted at his remark as she stood on one of the force fields a few feet above the ground. Yeah, okay, YN giggled as she used more fields to step down. 5 Bakugo shot a little glare at her, then looked at a breathing Midoriya. YN went over to him. Are you okay, Izuku? Yeah, I'll be fine, he answered, standing up. YN walked over to Bakugo. I didn't know you could do that, she remarked, as she pointed to his still slightly smoking hand. Yeah, that's what happens when you practice with your power, YN, he sniped. How did you score higher than me? 66 Through hard work and being nice, YN said, emphasizing on the nice part. 58 He shot a little glare at her, walking away. Then it was the second test, grip strength. YN didn't do so hot on this one since she really couldn't use her quirk in this situation. She overheard that one of the students, one she found out was Mizo Shoji, had an iron grip basically. YN had about a 70 kilograms grip, which wasn't terrible but it wasn't the best either. 137 Next was the standing long jump, something that YN would be good at given her quirk. She jumped up, being boosted by the force field and a short blast. Then it was Bakugo, who launched himself using his quirk. The thing is, he didn't stop fast enough, which ended with him knocking into YN and them both falling down. 34 You idiot! Bakugo yelled as he was getting off of her. 45 You ran into me. YN barked back at him. 12 You should have moved. 15 You should have watched where you were going. Are you two together or something? Some redhead, 𝚑𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗 asked the two of them after watching them fight. 243 No. YN and Bakugo screamed at him at the same time. 78 Just watch where you stand. Bakugo snarled at YN while walking away from them. 3 What's his deal? Kirishima asked, going up to her once Bakugo was gone. 10 He's always like this, I'm YN and by the way, she introduced herself, holding out her hand. 5 𝚑𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗, he responded, shaking her hand. Your quirk is really cool by the way, what is it? 48 I call it energy, but it's basically energy manipulation, she answered, making her eyes glow as an example. 6 Wow, that's really showy and cool, he awed. Mine's not as showy as yours. 55 What is yours? I have a hardening quirk. He shrugged, obviously not excited by the thought of it. 431 That's literally the coolest thing I've heard, 𝚑𝚐𝚐 commented while smiling. 26. A huge, toothy grin came across Kirishima's face. Thanks. 210. Then came the repeated side steps. How fun. It went pretty quickly as 𝚑𝚐𝚐 just bounced off of her force fields back and forth. One student, Minoru Mineta, bounced off of what looked like grapes. This same student was also caught staring at girls' butts while drooling, so that's going to be fun to deal with throughout the year. 274. Then the ball throw came once again. 𝚑𝚐𝚐 got to sit out on this one since she had already done it in the beginning. Uraraka had stepped up, using her quirk to make the ball float until infinity or however far infinity is considered. 16. How did you do that? 𝚑𝚐𝚐 asked her once she got back from the circle. My quirk is zero gravity, so anything I use my quirk on has zero gravity until I release it, she explained while having a sheepish grin. 127. That's awesome. 𝚑𝚐𝚐 commented excitedly. Then it was Midoriya's turn. He stepped up to the circle, holding the ball in his hand. If Midoriya doesn't shape up soon, he'll be the one going home, Ida stated, which immediately got Bakugo's attention. Of course he is, he's a quirkless loser. Bakugo snapped. 60. He has a quirk, did you not hear what he did in the entrance exam? Hey. 5. I've actually never seen his quirk, and Katsuki and I have known him almost all of our lives, 𝚑𝚐𝚐 interjected. What happened at the entrance exam? 1. He punched a huge robot, Ida explained to the two. This was when Midoriya started to throw it, his arm beginning to glow, when suddenly it stopped and the ball barely went far. 30. What gives, I was trying to use it just now, Midoriya whimpered while looking at his hand. I erased your quirk, Mr. Aizawa stated. The judges for this exam were not rational enough. Someone like you should never be allowed to enroll in this school. 97. Wait, you did what to my dash? Then Midoriya saw Mr. Aizawa's goggles. Wait, those goggles, I know you. You can look at someone and cancel out their powers, the Eraser hero, Eraserhead. 3. Eraser. Who's that? One of the students asked. 2. I think he works on the down low, another student commented. I've heard of him, Izuku told me a little about him, 𝚑𝚐𝚐 added. Of course he did, that nerd, Bakugo grumbled. 117. You're not ready, you don't have control of your power, Mr. Aizawa told Midoriya. Were you planning on breaking your bones again? Counting on others to come and save your useless body? 35. No, that's not what I was trying to do, Midoriya said before being pulled in through Mr. Aizawa's scarf. 12. No matter what your intentions are, you would be nothing more than a liability in battle, he told Midoriya. You have the same reckless passion as another overzealous hero I know. You can do one punch before breaking down. Sorry Midoriya, with your power, there's no way you can become a hero. 153. A couple students gasped at the sight of Mr. Aizawa and Midoriya during their conversation. What do you think that was about? 𝚑𝚐𝚐 asked in a somewhat rhetoric manner, not expecting a real answer from any of her fellow classmates. I wonder if our teacher gave him some advice, Ida suggested, chopping his hand a couple times. 6. He probably told him to start packing, Bakugo sneered. 49. Be positive, 𝚑𝚐𝚐 remarked at him. 25. I've returned your impractical quirk, take your final throw, Mr. Aizawa gruffly told him while walking away. Hurry and get it over with. 1. Then Midoriya took his throw, using his quirk to channel it into his finger, breaking it. His quirk caused basically a wind tunnel, shooting the ball into the air. The 5 people who were already done, 𝚑𝚐𝚐, Bakugo, Ida, 𝚑𝚑𝚐𝚑, and Uraraka, gasped in shock. Whoa! 𝚑𝚑𝚐 gasped quietly. Mr. Aizawa, Midoriya said, gaining his attention. You see, I'm still standing. 112. This kid. Mr. Aizawa said in a shocked manner. 31. Nice, he's finally showing us his true power. Uraraka exclaimed, pumping her fist in the air. His finger appears to be broken now, Ida observed, rubbing his chin. Just like in the exam. His quirk is very odd. 1. It wasn't a very pretty throw, 𝚑𝚑𝚐 commented. 124. Bakugo seemed shocked and angry. 𝚑𝚑𝚐 noticed it and put her hand on his shoulder. Don't you dare go after him, she threatened. 34 Bakugo's hands started to cause explosions, pushing YN back a little bit. 5 Hey! Deku, you 𝚑𝚑. Tell me how you did that or you're dead. Bakugo yelled while running at Midoriya at full speed. 39 YN created a bubble around him, stopping him while Mr. Aizawa cancelled out his quirk. 6 YN, put down the field, he yelled while pounding against the bubble with his fists. 93 Stand down, Mr. Aizawa commanded. It'd be wise to stop making me use my quirk so much, it gives me serious dry eye. Ellen, you can put the field down now. 24 She did as he commanded, putting the bubble down as she let out a sigh. She leaned over, resting her hands on her knees as Uraraka noticed her obvious lack in energy. 11 Are you okay? Uraraka asked her. 47 Yeah, I'm okay. It's just, YN started, some things, like blasts, are easy to do with just sunlight or moonlight. But bubbles take more of my own energy, especially to keep it from going off as much as he was pounding it. 17 You're wasting my time now, Mr. Aizawa said as he blinked to end the quirk. Whoever's next can step up. Midoriya came over to the side with the people who finished, leaving Bakugo standing where he was previously trapped. Ouch, is your finger okay? Uraraka asked Midoriya. 2 It's fine, Midoriya reassured her. 33 YN walked up to Bakugo, who was shooting Midoriya a death glare. What the heck was that? She asked him in a harsh manner. 1 Why did you stop me? He retorted, looking at her with the same intensity. 4 You were going to hurt him, you idiot. I'm going to crush that bug, Bakugo threatened, looking at the ground and clenching his fists. 50 YN sighed as they walked back to the lineup. Fantastic. 23 AN. Phew, that was a long one. After the rest of the rigorous testing, which everyone did well in their own ways, it was finally over. Alright, time to give you your results, Mr. Aizawa told the class after they had gathered. I've ranked you all from best to worst. You probably have a good idea of your standing already. I'll pull up the whole list, it's not worth going over each individual score. Mr. Aizawa pulled up the scores, showing who had done the best. 𝚑𝚑𝚑𝚗𝚑 she saw that she had gotten third best in the class, right below Shoto Todoroki and right above Katsuki Bakugo. 121 Fantastic. I'll never hear the end of this, YN thought as she saw the score. What's wrong? A calm voice asked. You placed in the top 3, shouldn't you be happy? 16 YN looked over, seeing the guy who had placed above her, Shoto Todoroki. 260 I am happy, it's just the person below me is not going to be happy, YN explained, pointing to a red-faced Bakugo. He doesn't like to lose. I'm sure it will be fine, Todoroki told her, his somewhat stoic and calm expression not changing whatsoever. I'm Shoto Todoroki, by the way. 63 YN, 2 YN, an angry voice yelled. 61 Just great, YN mumbled as she turned to the human Pomeranian. Yes, Katsuki. 48 You placed above me again, he grunted through clenched teeth. If you place that high, you better beat me when it comes to combat. 33 Wait, what? YN said, confused that he wasn't about to murder her right then and there. This is the second time you've beaten me, he continued. If you place higher than me, you better be better than me or I'll just have to beat you to a pulp. 32 Nice to know you haven't changed, YN stated while rolling her eyes. Clearly high school hasn't done much for you. 15 And I was lying, no one's going home, Mr. Aizawa said as he turned off the board. Gaining the students' attention once again. That was just a rational deception to make sure you gave it your all on the tests, he said while smiling a rather creepy smile. 14 What? The class yelled, shocked by this admittance. I'm surprised the rest of you didn't figure that out, Yorozu stated. I guess I should have said something. 398 After that, the class seemed to calm down. They began to talk amongst themselves, getting their nerves out as they were relieved no one would be sent home on the first day. 12 That was pretty nerve-wracking, here. Soto commented. 1 I'm always down for a challenge, Kirishima said while putting his fist up. 1 Bakugo just huffed after seeing that Midoriya wasn't going home this time. 2 It's a good thing Izuku didn't get expelled, right? YN asked Bakugo, turning to him after noticing his silent judgment. 66 Bakugo just huffed off, not wanting to answer the question. YN sighed, shaking her head as she watched him leave her alone. 7 That's it, we're done for the day. Pick up a syllabus in the classroom, read it over before tomorrow morning, Mr. Aizawa said as he walked away, leaving the students alone. 10 Aizawa said as he walked away, leaving the students alone. 6 As YN was leaving school, she felt a hand on her shoulder, causing her to immediately turn around. Her eyes faintly glowed as a reaction. "Geez, sorry, just don't blast me," Bakugo said once he saw YN's eyes. 145, "Oh, it's just you, what's up?" she asked, fully turning towards him as she crossed her arms. "Why didn't you tell me about your quirk before you, or even when you first got it? We were so close when our quirks kicked in," he said as he rubbed his arm, speaking a lot quieter than normal. 142, "Well, YN started, not quite sure how to answer his rather complicated question. "Hey YN," 𝚑𝚘𝚗 yelled as she ran down the courtyard. "Why don't you come walk with Deku, Ida, and I? Sure, I'll be there in a minute," YN said, turning back to Bakugo. "Katsuki, I'll tell you when you're ready to understand." 70 Then YN ran to catch up with the other three, leaving Bakugo there with his own thoughts. He was certainly confused by her statement, "when you're ready to understand." It was something that he'd ponder quite a bit after their brief interaction. 21 It was the next day and most likely a harder day based on the first day's events. 3 It was the next day and most likely a harder day based on the first day's events. But in the mornings, it was filled with boring normal classes. YN was okay with it since she sat behind Bakugo and next to Midoriya. It's 3 rows of 7 desks. 152 Then they would eat lunch in the main cafeteria. YN didn't know where to sit since she could have sat with the group with Midoriya, or she could have tried to sit with Bakugo. YN started walking away from the lunch line when Midoriya called out to her, "Hey YN, over here." 40 YN turned towards him, waving back and going to sit next to him while being across from Ida and 𝚑𝚘𝚗. 6 So what's up with you and Bakugo? Ida asked as YN was taking a sip of water. 60 YN snorted, pulling out a napkin to wipe away a little. She coughed as she asked him, "What do you mean?" 11 Well, clearly there's something between you. You seem to keep him in check during the school day and talk to him after, Ida pointed out, chopping his arms in the air slightly. 37 We're just old friends, YN told him, shrugging as she took another sip. 7 You and Kaken seem to be hanging out more since we started you, Midoriya added. 30 And YN questioned. Just because we talk sometimes doesn't mean there's more to the two of us. Have you ever thought of him as more? 𝚑𝚘𝚗 further asked. 96 YN then stopped, thinking for a moment. Did she think of him as more than just a friend? Then as she thought about all the times she's really cared for him as more than just one of her friends, which resulted in her blushing a little. 7 Oh my God! 𝚑𝚘𝚗 exclaimed, a little shocked. You do? 121 No I don't, YN defended, taking a bite of white rice. 6 You're blushing. Midoriya pointed to her brightening cheeks. 94 I'm always pink, YN lied. 652 Well, this is going to be a problem, she thought. He almost hates me, we can't possibly start something more if he's always yelling at me. Can we? 95 It soon became the afternoon, the first day of hero basic training. It soon became the afternoon, the first day of hero basic training for I Am Here. All Might announced as he entered the classroom. Coming through the door like a hero. 191 I can't believe it's really All Might. Kaminari exclaimed with an excited look. So he is a teacher. This year is gonna be totally awesome. Kirishima said as he pumped his fist up. 25 This is going to be interesting, YN commented in a hushed tone. Why do you say that? Midoriya asked, turning to YN. Well, he's the #1 hero, YN reasoned, leaning her chin against her hand. Why would he suddenly want to teach here? 20 Well, he's an alumni here, why wouldn't he? 9 Sure, but why now? YN further asked, looking towards All Might as he marched up to the podium. 72 Welcome to the most important class at UA High, All Might said as he stood at the teacher's podium. Think of it as heroing 101. 17 As All Might explained some things about the course, it couldn't help but make YN think, why does he suddenly want to teach high schoolers? What changed in his game? 58 Today's lesson. All Might exclaimed as he held up a card that said battle in red. Will pull no punches. 12 Fight training. Bakugo grinned. 7 Real combat. Midoriya asked, looking very clearly nervous. Already? YN followed up, straightening up in her seat a little. 2 One of the keys of being a hero is looking good. All Might continued while pointing to the class's new outfits coming out. These are designs based on your Quirk registration forms and the designs you requested before school started. 15 The class looked insanely excited at getting their new costumes. YN looked over, getting slightly nervous at what her overall costume looked like. 73 Get yourselves suited up, then meet me at training ground beta. All Might informed them as he walked out of the classroom. 2 As the class grabbed their assigned costume cases and headed to the locker room to change, YN caught up with Bakugo, grabbing his shoulder. 3 You're gonna go all out on Izuku if you're against him, aren't you? YN asked, looking more serious than she was in class. 2 Of course I am, Bakugo responded, looking irritated at the thought. He's not quirkless, but he made me think he is so he could mock me this entire time. 35 I'm sure that's not the case, YN assured him, putting her hand on his arm. 1 Of course it is, why would he hide it otherwise, he practically yelled, getting out of YN's grip and turning to go to the locker room. 41 Of course it is, why would he hide it otherwise, he practically yelled, getting out of YN's grip and turning to go to the locker room as YN was pulling her light blue suit top over her head. Uraraka came over, asking, You've really got it bad for Bakugo, don't you? 259 What? YN exclaimed, immediately pulling the shirt down the rest of the way. No I don't. What makes you say that? 44 You stopped him in the hallway on the way here, Uraraka stated as she crossed her arms. No one would do that willingly based on how he's acted. 12 Well I have because I've known him for a long time, YN told her, tying her black combat boots. You really gotta stop saying that I like him. 25 Before Uraraka could respond, YN put on her goggles, pulling up her hair. If you don't have hair long enough to do this, ignore these kind of sayings or roll with the punches, and walked out of the locker room, leaving her standing alone. 1:30 On the way to the training ground, YN saw a familiar ash blonde puff of hair. She ran up to him, seeing a little bit of his costume. 1 Hey Katsuki-dan, YN said as she saw his costume, noticing how accented his muscles were and the grenade gauntlets. You really went all out for this. 133 You don't like it. Bakugo snarled slightly. 36 No, I do. YN shook her head. She pointed to the gauntlets, asking, Why do you need those though? You'll see in the trial, Bakugo said, looking YN up and down. You don't look terrible though. 142 Wow, that's probably the nicest thing you've said to me, YN sarcastically responded, taking a step back as she was slightly surprised. I thought the blue would go well with my powers. YN said this as she rubbed her arm. 44 Her costume started with black combat boots since she basically ran on force fields, next with black shorts, complemented with knee-high light blue socks. Her top was a light blue sweatshirt-looking top, with tight wrists and baggy arms, slightly hugging her torso. 248 She also had goggles. They had a mask vibe so she can see better through her sometimes thick force fields, since they can be bright and pigmented, which also forced her to put her hair up to she didn't forget since it took up more energy to keep it out of her face. Originally it came with black gloves, but YN had put those in her top pockets, knowing that it was easier to control with bare hands. 28 It looks fine, Bakugo stated as he began walking again. We should go, don't want to be late. 15 Right. YN nodded as she walked with him, trailing just slightly behind. They say the clothes make the pros, young ladies and gentlemen, All Might stated as the class began to enter the area. And behold, you are the proof. Take this to heart, from now on, you are all heroes in training. 18 As the class finally all came out, All Might commented how everyone looked so cool. Now, shall we get started, you bunch of newbies? 69 Midoriya trailed behind, 𝚑𝚑𝚗 greeting him while All Might seemed to be a little embarrassed. Now that you're ready, it's time for combat training. 70 Sir, Ida said under his mask, holding up his hand. This is the fake city from our entrance exam. Does that mean we'll be conducting urban battles again? 1 Not quite, I'm going to move you 2 steps ahead, All Might responded as he explained the training, saying how the class would be training inside a building since that is where the worst stuff takes place. The teams will be split into good guys and bad guys, one team having 3 instead of 2 so we do not have an odd team out in the indoor battles. 12 Isn't this a little advanced? Asui asked, putting her finger to her chin. Yeah, this is the first day of combat training, Yn added. The best training is what you get on the battlefield, All Might told them. But remember, you can't just punch a robot this time, you're dealing with actual people now. 6 As students barraged All Might with questions, Yn felt something strange in the back of her head. She shook her head slightly, looking back at Bakugo, seeing a slight red tint around him and then looking at 𝚑𝚑𝚗, seeing a slight pink tint. She looked up at All Might, seeing what looked like a small rainbow around him, then feeling that same feeling behind her, she looked at Midoriya, seeing the same small rainbow. 309 Yn are you okay? Bakugo whispered, elbowing her slightly as he noticed her clearly dazed state. 37 Yeah. I'm fine. 2 I must be sensing energy, maybe it's quirk energy since everyone here has a quirk, she thought as she looked between All Might and Midoriya. Wait, why did Izuku and All Might have the same quirk energy then? How strange. 335 Once All Might had explained the situation, it was time to draw our teams. Yn ended up being paired with Bakugo, which was good for her but not so much for him. 55 Well, looks like I can keep you in check, Katsuki, Yn stated as she saw Bakugo grimace a little, knowing very well she could stop him instantly. 18 I declare the first teams to fight will be, All Might said as she stuck his hands in to grab the teams. These guys. All Might said this as he helped up Team A as the heroes and Team D as the villains. Midoriya had looked over at Bakugo, seeing he was glaring daggers at him. Yn noticed this and stepped between the two. Don't sweat it, Yn assured Midoriya, waving. Bakugo off. I'm his partner, so you shouldn't die during this course. 51 That's kind of reassuring, Midoriya responded with an awkward chuckle, sweating bullets, then he clenched his fist and looked at Bakugo with determination. This caused Bakugo to look a little shocked and growl a little. 25 Yn then grabbed his arm, dragging him to the area they would have to be protecting for the exercise. Young Ellen, young Bakugo, All Might started, causing the two of them to stop as they were entering the building. The key to being successful in this challenge is to embody villainy, think from the perspective of an 𝚑𝚘𝚘𝚑. If things go too far, I'll step in. 59 Got it, Yn affirmed, nodding as she entered the building. She turned around, seeing that Bakugo looked more irritated than normal at Midoriya. She slapped his arm lightly, silently signaling him to move it. 8 As they went up to their area, Yn stopped Bakugo while they were going up one of the staircases. You know how All Might said he would step in if things went too far? 4 Yeah, Bakugo snarled in response. Just know, Yn began, glowing her eyes slightly, if you go too far with Izuku, I will step in and stop you. 28 You can't do that, we're supposed to be villains together. Bakugo clenched his fists as he looked up at her on the staircase. 63 But knowing you, you'll take things too far and I'll have to step out of line and stop you once again, Yn stated, resuming her walk up the stairs. Just know that I'll be watching you. 55 Bakugo clicked his tongue following her once more up the stairs and to the area they would be working in. 12 Once the two got to their position, looking at the fake nuke they would be protecting, Bakugo stopped and looked at the area they entered from. 4 Once the two got to their position, looking at the fake nuke they would be protecting, Bakugo stopped and looked at the area they entered from. 4 When? Bakugo growled to get her attention. She responded, pulling her goggles up a little to get a better and natural eye on him. Do you really think Deku has a quirk? You've known him just as long as I have, Bakugo asked her. 9 Honestly, 𝚑𝚘𝚞 said, walking up to him, I do, and can see that he does. Wait, how can you see that he has a quirk? He asked, spinning around to face her as he grew slightly confused. 6 I think I can sense quirk energy, 𝚑𝚞 told him, rubbing the back of her head. When All Might was briefing us on the training, my head started to buzz and I seemed to see faint energies wavering over our classmates' bodies. I assume it's quirk energy because, well, yours was red. 24 After saying this, Bakugo looked at her, crossing his arms as much as he could with his big gauntlets. How do you suddenly know this now? I don't know, Katsuki. 𝚑𝚞 shook her head and looked down at the ground. I don't know. Well, couldn't you do this before? 5 No, hence why I probably looked so bewildered before team drawing today. Well, you're just full of surprises. What else can your quirk do? Read minds. 29 I wish, but I already know what you're thinking. 𝚑𝚞 laughed slightly. What? 7 You want to go after Izuku, 𝚑𝚞 stated, tensing up a little bit. I'm not going to let you go too far, just remember that. I can hear what you hear. 6 She said this while pointing to hers and Bakugo's earpieces. Fine, just don't get in my way, he growled at her. 3 Alright, let's begin the indoor combat training. All Might announced over the speaker. Team A and D, your time starts now. Stay here, Bakugo commanded as he ran out the door. Where are you going? 𝚑𝚞 asked while opening up a nearby window more to let in more daylight. To find Deku. 88 Well, honestly he might have a slight strategy. I'm the best fit to protect the rocket with my quirk. But he's still going to hurt Izuku. I'll go if it gets too bad, 𝚑𝚞 reasoned within her mind. 12 A few minutes passed, 𝚑𝚞 tried to use her new energy sensing ability to try and find Bakugo and Team A, but it just caused her to have a vicious headache. A few minutes passed, 𝚑𝚞 tried to use her new energy sensing ability to try and find Bakugo and Team A, but it just caused her to have a vicious headache. 1 Arg, she yelped, holding her head and touching a nearby beam, causing her eyes to glow a light blue, suddenly being able to see Bakugo about to sneak attack Midoriya. Wait, 𝚑𝚞 thought. Maybe if I touch the building or ground someone's in, I can sense their energy, maybe being able to see it through the building as it conducts my energy. 34 Suddenly Bakugo attacked, causing a slight explosion, shaking the building a little. I'm going to hurt you so bad that they'll have to stop the training, Deku, Bakugo threatened. 504 I heard that. 𝚑𝚞 snapped through the earpiece, letting go of the beam to stop seeing what was happening. 2 Shut up, 𝚑𝚞. Bakugo practically screamed through the earpiece, causing her to wince at the loud response. 71 𝚑𝚞 reached to touch the beam and use her quirk, seeing that Bakugo had been thrown down by Midoriya, which made Bakugo seem a lot angrier. Although she couldn't hear anything, she could see what was going on. It seemed like Midoriya was standing up to Bakugo finally, and although they were on opposite teams, 𝚑𝚞 was proud that Midoriya was finally able to stand up to Bakugo. But then she saw that Uraraka had begun running another direction. She's probably going after the nuke. I better get off and stay alert here, 𝚑𝚞 thought, getting off the beam and standing around the nuke. Damn it, you've been tricking me for years, making me think you were weak. You were laughing behind my back, here. Bakugo screamed, 𝚑𝚞 hearing it slightly over the earpiece and in the building. 11 How is he so loud? 𝚑𝚞 asked herself, shaking her head as she rested her hands on her hip. 21 That guy has some real anger issues, it's kinda scary, Kaminari stated as he watched Bakugo scream at Midoriya. That guy has some real anger issues, it's kinda scary, Kaminari stated as he watched Bakugo scream at Midoriya. 39 What was that girl, Ellen, doing? She was holding the beam with her eyes and hands glowing blue, Kirishima asked. I don't know, but her quirk has some serious power, Kaminari responded, looking to Kirishima. I've seen her in action, especially when it comes to restraining Bakugo, Ida informed them. Her quirk is insanely versatile, so who knows what she was doing with that beam. 18 Down when Bakugo did a sneak attack on the hero team, Kirishima pointed out. I saw a slight blue glow above Bakugo. Do you think that was her? Do you think her quirk allowed her to somewhat be there or something? 2 I have no idea, Ida said, looking to the screen. She placed first in the entrance exam though, so she's probably not scratching the surface of her Quirk's abilities. YN was pacing, mumbling to herself about how Bakugo was going to either kill Midoriya or himself. Either way, she was most likely going to have to step in. That was when, unbeknownst to her, Uraraka had found the nuke in her, and was listening to her mumble. Who knows, maybe Katsuki and I will have to team up in the future just so I can make sure he doesn't blow someone up out of anger. Oh, who am I kidding, YN said, leaning against a beam, touching it and using her quirk to sense the other team. He's just gonna drop me and move on, he wouldn't want to be around me. Wait, does this mean I like him? No, of course not, he's my angry friend. But he's an attractive angry friend, oh my god, I think I like him. I mean, I wouldn't just fight a sludge monster just to save anyone, especially since that was when I barely found out I could make stepping fields. Oh yeah, I think I like, she abruptly stopped, sensing Uraraka's energy and hearing her faint giggle. 173 Uraraka, I can sense you, YN said, getting off the beam. You can't hide from me. Especially since there's nothing for you to hide behind, or fight me with. Uraraka then came out, seeing YN had moved everything she could touch out of reach. And you can't give energy zero gravity, so you've made a mistake coming here alone, YN continued, making her eyes glow. As Uraraka informed Midoriya that she was found, and was probably going to have to fight YN, she told him where they were. Then the building began to shake. What was that? YN asked Uraraka, breaking her villain character and making her eyes go back to her normal EC shade. 49, I don't know, Uraraka responded, shaking her head as she regained her balance. Katsuki, YN said, pressing the earpiece and making her eyes glow just slightly. What was that? Don't you dare tell me that was you. If you do one more, I will come down there and stop you myself. Do you understand? 23 Then Uraraka came running towards the nuke, causing YN to immediately create a force field bubble around her. I use these to make sure Katsuki doesn't blow up on Izuku, YN said, putting both glowing hands up to use her quirk. So you're not going anywhere. Bakugo, use that stored up power again and your team will lose. All Might announced over the speakers. 15 YN sighed with slight relief, knowing that Bakugo would do anything to win. As All Might explained to him the reasoning, YN went back and focused on the bubble, kicking in her adrenaline since there wasn't much natural light in a closed space. Thankfully my quirk allows me to control when my stored up adrenaline kicks in so I can have extra energy to use at nighttime and indoors, so I'll be fine for maybe an extra 5 minutes. I've been running on my normal adrenaline since I started using my force field bubbles. There's no good source of daylight, natural light, and I'm getting tired, YN thought as sweat began to run down across her goggles. 5 Katsuki, listen to me, YN began as she used her shoulder to turn on the earpiece. I'm running on my quirk's extra adrenaline now, so I have maybe 5 minutes before I pass out. If I come down there, we'll lose and I know how much you hate that. 3 YN, I'm ending this now, so shut up and let me work. Just last a couple more minutes. Bakugo basically screamed into the earpiece once again. 20 Then a huge wind gust burst through the floor up through the entire building, causing YN to lose her focus and fall back, causing the bubble to be let down and Uraraka to get over the new crater to touch the nuke. YN fell to the ground, nearly unconscious from the adrenaline rush being over and her energy depleted. 2 I've got it. Uraraka yelled as she held onto the nuke for dear life. 1 Katsuki, what did you do? YN rhetorically questioned as the world blurred and faded in her eyes. The hero team. All Might announced over the speaker. Wins. 18 Uraraka got off the nuke, rushing down to YN. She held her head up and pulled off her goggles. 24 she yelled, trying to wake YN up. YN's eyes opened, seeing her new friend worried about her. She chuckled, smiling up at her as she pointed to the hole and assured her, it's fine, the skylight helped. 87 YN groaned while getting up, really sore and tired from the training. Where's Izuku? YN asked, looking down the hole and seeing Midoriya laying on the ground while Bakugo looked shocked and angry. Your indoor combat training is over, All Might announced. 2 Are you okay, Uraraka? YN asked, seeing her looking nauseous. Then she vomited while YN patted her back. 64 The nurse robots came and picked up a broken Midoriya. All Might offered for YN and 𝚑𝚘𝚏𝚑 to be taken to the nurse. The nurse robots came and picked up a broken Midoriya. All Might offered for YN and 𝚑𝚑𝚏𝚑 to be taken to the nurse. But the two were fine enough to watch the others. YN walked over to Bakugo, who was shaking while staring at his hand. Bakugo seemed to be lost in his thoughts, beginning to hyperventilate. But before YN could get over to him, All Might had put his hand on his shoulder, telling him to calm down. 6 Let's go review your work, he told Bakugo. Whether you win or lose, you can always take something away from an experience like this. As long as you're open to learning. 23 Once they three had gotten back to the observation area, Bakugo had seemed like he was still in a shocked state while 𝚑𝚑𝚘𝚗 seemed to still be nauseous. YN just looked slightly tired, but the DIY Skylight seemed to get her up and running. 24 Despite the results, the MVP of this challenge is young LN, All Might announced, leaving a few shocked faces, especially YN's. 72 Shouldn't it be one of the heroes instead since they're the winners? Asui asked, confused by the statement. 3 That is a valid question, All Might said, turning to the abundance of students. Who has a valid guess? 1 Sir, Narozu said as she raised her hand. I can tell you why. 141 She then put her hand down and explained it. Ellen was the most focused and embraced the challenge. While her partner had gone out on his own, leaving her to guard on her own, which was actually a better move given the versatility of her quirk. He had acted reckless, destroying the building they should be protecting. His judgment was clouded by a personal grudge against Midoriya. 21 Midoriya had done something similar as he destroyed part of the area, rendering his body helpless, not smart. 𝚑𝚑𝚗𝚑 had broken the role as she had giggled while Ellen was what looked like mumbling to herself while working. She had too much to rely on given the hypothetical stakes. 5 Ellen was prepared and was what seemed like she had her eye on the situation given she was using her quirk to what looked like she was watching through the building. Dang! YN mumbled after hearing the extremely detailed response. 29 As All Might began the next matches, YN pulled a silent Bakugo to the side. 2 Why didn't you listen to me? YN asked in a hushed tone, putting her hands on her hips as she looked like an angry parent. You could have hurt all of us or killed Izuku. What was going through your head? I don't know, Bakugo responded quietly, looking to the ground. 7 Wait, what? YN further asked, slightly shocked at his quiet response. What happened down there? What did Izuku say that got you so ramped up? Well, couldn't you hear it since you were watching through the building? 25 I could see you through the energy, yes, but I couldn't hear anything. YN sighed, seeing Bakugo's state and softening her rather irritated stance. I know how you feel. I'm sad we lost too, but at what cost? Izuku's broken and I passed out from the adrenaline rush. What are you gonna risk next, Katsuki? 4 You passed out, he asked, looking up as he grew visibly concerned. 189 Yes. YN sighed, crossing her arms. There was little Skylight so I was running on my energy and controlled adrenaline. Are you okay? 61 Yeah, are you feeling alright? YN grew confused, reaching her hand up to press the back of her hand against his forehead. Plus Bakugo had immediately snatched her hand as she put it on there, causing her to gasp from the shock quietly. But instead of him yelling, he just held her hand, seeming to need the support. 195 Katsuki, YN began, pulling her hand down while still holding his. What happened? Katsuki, YN said, looking at him. What happened? 10 Bakugo opened his mouth to answer but just shut it immediately. Okay. YN sighed, turning to go to the group. When you're ready to talk about what happened, I'll be here. 7 Suddenly it got extremely cold, and YN began to shiver while Bakugo just stared up at the screen. 1 What the? YN looked up at the building, which was now coated in ice, trapping the opposite team within it instantly. He incapacitated them, without compromising the weapon or his teammate. All Might informed them while shivering furiously. Take note of his technique, students. 4 Whoa, he's so strong. Kirishima ordered Todoroki's quirk. No kidding, YN added, watching Todoroki touch the nuke with ease. 3 as All Might announced the hero team won. Todoroki melted the ice just as easy as he put it there. I think he has 2 quirks, YN stated, watching the building's ice melt. 10 Holy CRP. Soto exclaimed. 7, that guy's kinda intimidating, Kaminari chuckled nervously. 36 he got in on a recommendation, so he must be good, Asui stated. 7 as they went over the last team's work, YN went over to Bakugo, who looked both angry and like he was ready to cry as he bit his lip. 39, are you going to be okay for the rest of the matches, she asked him. I'll be fine. Bakugo snarled as he looked over to Todoroki. 8 then as the matches went on, Bakugo stayed silent, something that was unusual for him unless something was seriously wrong. YN noticed this but decided to just stay out of it since he wasn't ready to talk yet. 9 once the matches were done, All Might exclaimed how everyone did excellent and zoomed off to check on Midoriya. Okay you guys, that is a hero. Kaminari exclaimed. Or, I'll never be able to run that fast, Ojiro sighed. 22 super awesome, Mineta said as he covered his mouth. 101 Bakugo was still silent, which really worried YN, but she decided to just go and change out of her suit, which was now dirty thanks to the destruction wrought in her match. The class went back to their normal classes, and went through the rest of the day. 1 I guess Izuku isn't coming back just yet, YN told Uraraka as she went to her seat. 1 maybe, I hope he's okay, Uraraka said as she bit on her pencil. 73 once the day had passed and it was only a few minutes before school ended, Midoriya entered the classroom all bandaged up. Once the day had passed and it was only a few minutes before school ended, Midoriya entered the classroom all bandaged up. Hey, it's Midoriya, Kirishima exclaimed, looking up at Midoriya as he entered the classroom. Good to see you back, Super. Kirishima pumped his fist as the class gathered around Midoriya. I didn't know what you were saying during that match, but you were all fired up. 6 I can't believe you help your own against Bakugo, Soto commented. He's super strong. You did a good job dodging. Mina gushed. 9 glad to see you'll be okay though, YN sighed as she looked back at Bakugo's empty seat, who had left before Midoriya came back. 5 as the class introduced themselves to Midoriya, YN catching their names, she went back to sit behind Bakugo's seat, grabbing her stuff to go and try to talk to him. I've never seen him this upset before, she thought. I hope he's okay. 12 YN had noticed Midoriya took off running after Uraraka told him that Bakugo had left and began to walk after the two of them, knowing Bakugo couldn't have gone far. She exited the front doors. She noticed Midoriya had caught up to Bakugo, going to the bushes since it looked like something was going to start. Thankfully she hadn't been seen yet, so she just got close and listened. I have to tell you something, Midoriya started. So you'll understand what's been going on. I wasn't hiding my quirk from you, it was given to me by someone else recently. But I can't tell you who I got it from, so don't ask. 24 Waiter given quirk. YN thought as Midoriya continued. Who could have given a quirk to Izuku? Wait, could All Might have given him a quirk? It would explain the similar quirk energies. No, Izuku couldn't have that kind of power. Or he could, and that's why it's destroying his body. 164 That's why I didn't want to use it against you in the exercise, Midoriya continued as Bakugo began to grow angrier. But it was the only way I had a chance at winning. I've still got a lot to learn, I know that. That's why I'm here. You see, I'll work until I have full control of this borrowed quirk, and I'll finally beat you with my own power. How dumb do you think I am? Bakugo growled, clenching his fists. Borrowed power. Don't talk to me like I'm an idiot. You already made a fool of me in that DMN training exercise, but that's not enough. When I was watching that ice guy, I realized I couldn't beat him in a head-to-head fight. CRP. I even agree with what that girl said, my attack was so stupid. 16 As Bakugo looked up, telling Midoriya that he wouldn't get another win, it hit YN. He's beating himself up more than anyone ever would, she thought. Should I go out there? Should I say something to let them know I heard and want to help them? 6 There you are. All Might sped out, causing the wind to push YN out of the bushes, but thankfully no one noticed her still. Bakugo, I found you. 51 𝚬𝚣 got up and brushed herself off, walking up to Midoriya. Are you okay? Whoa, 𝚬𝚣, he gasped. Where did you come from? 71 the door. 𝚬𝚣 said while looking at him like he asked a stupid question. 74 as All Might talked to Bakugo, 𝚬𝚣 looked at him, noticing how nervous he looked. What were you talking to Kitsuki about out here? She asked, resting her hands at her sides. No. Nothing. Midoriya shrugged. If it was nothing, I would have had to use my quirk on him, 𝚬𝚣 stated. She quickly realized she couldn't tell them that she knew about the quirk and that she had figured it out. See you tomorrow. I better go babysit Kitsuki before he blows up a fire hydrant. 30 Okay, see you tomorrow. Midoriya waved as All Might zipped beside him and began to talk with him. 𝚬𝚣 ran up to Bakugo, grabbing his shoulder. All Might, I said. Bakugo began to yell before seeing it was 𝚬𝚣. Oh, it's just you. 13 Surprise. 𝚬𝚣 said, taking her hand off his shoulder. Are you okay? 7 I'll be fine. Bakugo gritted through clenched teeth. Do you believe Izuku? What? Do you believe he has a borrowed quirk? How did you -1? I heard through the bushes. I came down as soon as I saw Izuku run after you. Quite frankly, 𝚬𝚣 looked at his watery eyes. I'm really worried about you. I've never seen you act like this before. 12 I'll be fine. Bakugo sighed as he walked off. 𝚬𝚣 was walking to school when she saw that there were reporters swarming the entrance of the school. One was following Bakugo trying to get his statement. 2 Oh, hold on, aren't you that sludge villain kid? The reporter asked. Walk away, Bakugo hissed as he stopped. 5 𝚬𝚣 ran up, slightly pushing the reporter's microphone away. You might want to listen to him, she nervously chuckled. What about you? The reporter asked, shoving the mic into her face. What's it like to have All Might as a teacher? 𝚬𝚣 started before feeling her arm grabbed and pulled. Okay, so we'll walk away, Bakugo hissed as he dragged 𝚬𝚣 away from the reporter. 31 Once they had gotten inside the front door, Bakugo let go of her arm, leaving her to rub it. Thanks, she said, adjusting her jacket. For what? For getting me out of that situation. I didn't know what to say, she told him while rubbing her arm. Well, you were about to get that reporter out of my face, so why not get her away from you? He shrugged, walking to class. 43 He shrugged, walking to class. Once class had started, Mr. Aizawa talked about the combat training from the day before. Bakugo, you're talented, so don't sulk like a child over your loss, Mr. Aizawa told him. 30 Yeah, whatever, Bakugo grumbled. 2 And Midoriya, Mr. Aizawa continued, I see the only way you won the match was by messing up your arm again. Work harder, and don't give me the excuse that you don't have control over your quirk. It's already getting old. You can't keep breaking your body if you're training here, but your quirk can be really useful if you can get a handle on it. 16 Midoriya smiled at the comment, realizing that Mr. Aizawa does have some faith in him. Right, sir. 3 Something similar goes for you, Ellen. Mr. Aizawa continued, gaining her attention. Your quirk is versatile, but because of the low daylight, you had to kick in your adrenaline. It's good that you can now control that, but you need to be able to continue to work in lightless places without using your adrenaline and then passing out. 63 Yes, sir. 𝚬𝚣 nodded in response. 2 Now let's get to business, he said as the class began to get nervous. Our first task will decide your future. The class grew tense, waiting for whatever assignment they would need to do next. You all need to pick a class representative. 63 As everyone began to raise their hands and yell for them to be picked, 𝚬𝚣 just kind of sat wide-eyed at everyone's reactions. Silence, everyone, please. Ida yelled, sticking his hand in the air. We will hold a vote to pick the representative so that ensures that everyone has their trust in them. Is this really the best idea? Kaminari asked, a bit skeptical with the suggestion. We've only known each other a few days, Asui pointed out, putting her finger to her chin. How do we know who we can trust? Besides, everyone will just vote for themselves, Kirishima added. 5 That's true, but whoever gets the most will be suited for the job, Ida responded. So that means whoever wins already shows their leadership and can be someone to look to, and has shown this in only a couple days, 𝚑𝚐𝚐 chimed in. It's the best way, right sir? Ida asked Mr. Aizawa as he zipped up his yellow sleeping bag. Do what you want, just get it done, he told the class, flopping down in his bag. 12 Once the votes were done, it showed that Midoriya had been voted for 3 times and Yorozu was voted 2 times. Once the votes were done, it showed that Midoriya had been voted for 3 times and Yorozu was voted 2 times. How did I get 3 votes? Midoriya exclaimed. Okay, you idiots, Bakugo yelled as he shot up in his seat. Who voted for him? 12 What? Did you honestly think we'd vote for you? 𝚧𝚑 retorted. 48 Katsuki, sit down, YN hissed, but Bakugo just kept yelling at 𝚧𝚑. 28 Alright, the class rep is Midoriya and the deputy is Yorozu, Mr. Aizawa declared as he sat up in his sleeping bag. 13 Bakugo sat down after hearing the results, looking rather angry. Lunch couldn't come sooner, YN sat with Midoriya, Uraraka, and Ida again. Lunch couldn't come sooner, YN sat with Midoriya, Uraraka, and Ida again. That was the lunch the 3 found out about Ida's older brother being in 𝚑𝚑𝚑𝚗. While they were talking about it and other topics, the security bell rang. 13 What the? YN quietly commented as she stood up. 5 Apparently, it was a Class 3 breach, which caused everyone to panic and head for the exit. People were getting trampled. YN decided to grab the wall and tried to sense any type of strong quirk energy. 1 I'm not getting a strong energy. It can't be a villain. She called out to her friends. 3 Ida got up to the glass, pressing against it as he saw it was just the press. The panic is making things worse. What do we do? YN practically screamed over the raging people. I have an idea. Ida yelled to YN, create some stepping stones for me. On it. YN used her quirk to boost Ida above the crowd. As he began to run, YN created a walk path above the crowd, gaining their attention. Ida ran, but he didn't notice the wall and ran right into it. That was when he calmed everyone down, making his friends proud. 18 Once normal class had started again and they were going to figure out the other class officers, Midoriya had made a decision based on the events during lunch. Once normal class had started again and they were going to figure out the other class officers, Midoriya had made a decision based on the events during lunch. I think that Tenya Ida should be our class rep, Midoriya blurted out. He was able to capture everyone's attention and get us in line. I believe that he should be the one leading our class from now on. 6 As the class agreed, especially since he did what he had to do to make sure everyone stayed calm, Ida was given the position. 6 If Midoriya is nominating me for this job, Ida stood up. Then I humbly accept. I pledge to be class rep to the best of my abilities. 10 YN smiled, turning back to Ida and nodding, knowing he would get the job done. Mr. Aizawa announced that the class would be doing rescue training with 3 pros that day. As the class got up to grab their costumes for the training, YN couldn't help but think, I wonder if the force fields and stepping stones could be used for rescue. I mean, it wouldn't hurt to give it a try. 26 While they got changed, Uraraka came over to YN with the same look she would give her when talking about Bakugo and her. So? Uraraka started. So what? YN asked, pulling up her socks. You and Bakugo seem to be getting closer. 353 YN paused after pulling up her right sock, a slight tint coming across her cheeks. No. Fortin, I heard a little about what happened this morning with the reporters while coming in. He dragged you all the way. For okay, and? He didn't have to do it all the way. Chiko, that doesn't mean anything, YN responded as she put one of her boots on and leaned it against the bench to tie it. 6 Okay, then why did you guys hold hands during training yesterday? 294 You saw that, YN half yelled as she lost her balance and fell over. Yeah, Uraraka responded while helping her up. I gotta admit, it was adorable. 34 YN groaned as she and Uraraka left the locker room and went outside to wait for the bus. Uraraka went over to Midoriya to talk about his costume, while YN went over as she saw that Bakugo had only 1 gauntlet on. 14 Did you opt for 1 gauntlet so you could do rescues? She asked, pointing to his bare arm. 8. Yeah, I mean I can't pick people up with bulky arms. He shrugged. 7. Fair enough. Yn responded with a slight nod. 1. Ida then blew a whistle to get people to line up to load the bus efficiently. But that didn't work out since it was just a normal public bus. 5. The bus's open layout ruined my boarding strategy. Ida whined, leaning against his knees. The bus's open layout ruined my boarding strategy. Ida whined, leaning against his knees. Ida, you really need to chill, 𝚎𝚪𝚐 said while looking at him. 27. If we're pointing out the obvious, then there's something I want to say. About you actually, Asui stated, looking to Midoriya. That power of yours, isn't it a lot like All Might's? For what really? You think so, here. Midoriya responded, looking flustered. So I'm not the only one who thinks that, here. Yn thought, looking up from the ground to Midoriya, catching a glimpse of Bakugo staring out the window since she was sitting next to him. 5. Well, I've never really thought about that. Wait, hold on, 𝚬𝚐𝚐 noted. I think you're forgetting All Might doesn't hurt himself. That makes a huge difference. Still, I think it's cool to have a symbol augmenting type of quirk. You can do fancy stuff with it. My hardening quirk is strong and can beat bad guys in a fight, but it doesn't look all that impressive. 23. Or no way, I think it's really awesome looking, Midoriya complimented. You're definitely pro-material with a quirk like that. 4. You really think so? I think it'd be easier to become a pro-hero if I had something flashier, 𝚑𝚑𝚗𝚘 pointed out. 13. My naval laser has the perfect combination of panache and strength, 𝚑𝚑𝚗𝚗 added with his usual amount of flair. 90. But it's way lame if it gives you a stomachache, sweetie, 𝚎𝚪𝚗 noted, putting her hand on 𝚑𝚗𝚗𝚗's shoulder. 96. Well, if any of our classmates have pro-quirks, it's Todoroki, Ellen, and Bakugo, 𝚑𝚑𝚗𝚗 informed them as he turned towards the trio. 80. This made Bakugo look from the window from one moment and back. Yn just looked to them, smiling a little and going back to looking down at her socks. 3. Sure, but Bakugo's always angry. So he'll never be that popular, Asui commented, causing Yn to snort at the comment. 33. Bakugo instantly got angry, screaming at them as he shot up from his seat. What did you say? I'll kick your butt. 48. Katsuki, calm down, Yn said, grabbing his arm and trying to pull him down. 5. See, the only way he'll get to that level is if L is always around trying to stop him, Asui proved as she pointed towards him. 84. You know, we just met you, so it's kinda telling that we all know that your personality is flaming 𝚑𝚑𝚘𝚑 mixed with garbage, Kaminari pointed out in a nonchalant manner. 76. Yn snorted once again, but tightened her grip on Bakugo's arm so he wouldn't go nuts. You're gonna regret the day you applied to this school, you loser. Bakugo screamed. 3. Katsuki, sit down. Yn yelled at him, her hair falling in front of her face. CRP. What? He asked, sitting down as he finally started to calm down. I opted out of goggles today, but that means I forgot to put my hair up. So today is going to be rough, Yn explained as she pushed back some of her hair. 33. Oh yeah, I got something for you, Bakugo said, pulling a small hair tie out of one of his costume pockets. I knew that one day you would forget, or many days knowing you, and since we seem to hang out a lot more recently, I got one just in case, you idiot. 927. Yn smiled, a slight tint going across her cheeks. Wow, thanks, that's really thoughtful, she thanked him while taking the hair tie, pulling her hair into a half-up half-down hairstyle. 32. Yeah, just don't do it again, Bakugo responded, turning back to the window. Yn could have sworn there was just the slightest tint of blush across his cheeks. 77. Then the class arrived at the center, getting off the bus. Bakugo turned to Yn. You shouldn't have stopped me back there, though. Well, it's just a reflex now, she rebuked. 2. Hello everyone, I've been waiting for you. 13. Greeted, leaving the class in awe. I can't wait to show you what's inside. 158. As the class entered the area, everyone looked in awe at all the stations. 1. I'm glad there's a glass roof, Yn sighed in relief. 1. Why's that? 𝚑𝚑𝚗𝚗𝚑 asked. Well, my quirk is mostly based off of daylight and moonlight. If I have neither of those shining above me, I use my own energy. Hence why I can control if and when my adrenaline kicks in, 𝚑𝚐𝚐 explained, pointing to the sky and her hands as she spoke. 9. So that's why you passed out at the battle training yesterday, but were fine once you felt the skylight. 41. Yep, exactly. 𝚑𝚐𝚐 nodded. Then as they were about to start, 13 stopped the group. But before we start I need to say one thing, or two, three or possibly five. Listen carefully. I'm sure you know that I have a powerful quirk, it's called Black Hole. I use it to 𝚑𝚑𝚘 up anything and turn it into dust. 37. You've used Black Hole to save people from all kinds of disasters, Midoriya stated as Uraraka shook her head furiously. Haven't you? That's true, 13 agreed. But my quirk could very easily be used to kill. 37. That last part caused a few people to gasp. 𝚑𝚑𝚗 looked at her hands, wondering the same thing about her quirk. 76. Some of you also have powers that could be dangerous, 13 continued. In superhuman society, all quirks are certified and regulated, especially to see how unsafe they can actually be. Please remember that if you lose focus or make the wrong move, your powers could be deadly, even if you're trying to do something virtuous like rescue someone. 7. Thanks to Aizawa's tests, you have a solid idea of your quirk's potential, and through All Might's combat training, you saw how dangerous your powers can be used against other people. Carry those lessons over to this class. Today you're gonna learn how to use your quirks to save people's lives. You won't use your powers to attack villains or each other, but to help. After all, that's what being a hero's all about, ensuring the safety of others. 15. That's all I have to say, thank you so much for listening. For this caused some classmates to cheer due to the inspiration behind it. 𝚑𝚑𝚗 looked at her hands, wondering how far she could push her quirk while still maintaining her hero status. 4. Right, now that that's over, Mr. Aizawa started before being cut off by a warping sound, which was followed by a dark portal in the center of the arena. Stay together and don't move. 13. Protect the students. 59. What is that thing? Kirishima asked, looking over to the portal. Wait, has the training started already? I thought we were rescuing people. 2. 𝚑𝚑𝚗 kneeled down and touched the ground, using her quirk to try and see what and or who was there. 3. 𝚑𝚑𝚗, what do you see? Bakugo asked her, seeing her eyes and hands glow. 19. There's a lot coming through the portal, all with quirk energy, some stronger than others. But I can't see into the portal, it's too dark and strong for me, 𝚑𝚑𝚗 informed them as she remained in her kneeling position. 1. Stay back. Mr. Aizawa commanded. This is real. Those are villains. 18. The many villains explained how they wanted All Might, seeing as they brought so many people. 4. How can so many get into a facility this secure? Kirishima asked. 5. 𝚑𝚗𝚗, why aren't the alarms going off? Yorozu asked, going up to the teacher. 1. Good question, I'm not sure, 13 responded. 120. Is the entire campus under attack, or is this their only target? Todoroki questioned. One of these villains must have a quirk that masks their presence here. 𝚑𝚑𝚗, try and see their energy as far as possible, Bakugo barked. 60. I'm trying, but I don't see any outside of here, 𝚑𝚗 said, pulling her hands back and standing up. Either they're just here or I just can't see that far yet. Kaminari, try using your quirk to contact the school, Mr. Aizawa said, preparing to fight. 1. Yes, sir, he responded, putting his hand against the small radio he added to his costume. What are you gonna do? Midoriya asked, looking scared. You can't fight them on your own, there is too many of them. Even if you can nullify their quirks, your fighting style's not suited for this. You're best in stealth and one-on-one fights, that's not gonna work with a group. 70. Can't be a pro if you only have one trick, Mr. Aizawa stated. 96. As Mr. Aizawa jumped into action, the rest of the class ran for the exit, only to be cut off by a warped person. 𝚑𝚗𝚗, what's the energy reading? Ida asked, seeing the big villain. 2. Strong and dark, I think a warp quirk. 𝚑𝚗𝚗 answered. 76. It's a pleasure to meet you, the warper began. We are the League of Villains. I know it's impolite to invite ourselves to this haven of justice to say hello. Besides, isn't this a fitting piece for All Might, the symbol of peace, to take his last breath. 76 As the class prepared to either run or fight, 𝚑𝚑𝚞 touched the ground, trying to find an area to escape with no villains or ones with weak quirks. Well, in the end I suppose it doesn't matter, the 𝚑𝚘 continued. I still have a role to play. 31 Just as 𝚑𝚘 was about to use their quirk, 𝗑𝗫𝗵𝗲 and Bakugo jumped to attack the 𝚑𝚘𝚗. 𝚑𝚑𝚞 jumped up from the ground, hearing what had happened and losing her focus. Bakugo had caused an explosion, leaving smoke all around them. Did you think we were just gonna sit around and let you tear this place to shreds? 𝚑𝗫𝗵𝗲 sniped. 3 You live up to your school's reputation, the 𝚑𝚘 said, the smoke clearing to reveal he was unharmed. You should be careful, children, otherwise someone might get hurt. 8 Get out of the way right now. 13 barked, holding up their finger to use their quirk. 29 I will spread you across this facility now, the 𝚑𝚘 said, 𝚑𝚑𝚞 using her walking stones to jump in front of 𝚑𝗫𝗵𝗲 and Bakugo, creating a field in front of them as the 𝚑𝚘 surrounded the class, to meet my comrades and your deaths. 15 What is this? 𝚑𝗫𝗵𝗲 asked, looking around the darkness as he held his hand up. 𝚑𝚑𝚞 struggled to keep the field up, the darkness blocking out the daylight, forcing her to put it down. Ugh, she yelped as she was pushed over. 𝚑𝚘𝚞, Bakugo, and 𝚑𝗫𝗵𝗲 landed in the collapse zone. 𝚑𝚞 had a slight bloody nose from the 𝚑𝚘 shoving down her field. 8 You guys okay? 𝚑𝗫𝗵𝗲 asked as he sat up. Fine. Bakugo responded in a snappish manner, getting up. 5 I'll be fine, 𝚑𝚞 said, sitting up and wiping her nose with the back of her hand. 2 What happened? 𝚑𝗫𝗵𝗲 asked, noticing her fresh bloody nose. 4 The 𝚑𝚘 pushed down my field and me. I guess the energy push from my quirk and his caused me to have a bloody nose, 𝚑𝚞 responded as she got up. 45 You gonna be okay to fight? 𝚑𝗫𝗵𝗲 asked, helping her get up. 24 I should be, there's a lot of windows here so I think I'll be okay. Anyways, if I need to, I'll just kick in my adrenaline. 6 Well, it looks like we have company, Bakugo stated, the three getting back to back as the villains started to pile in. 5 𝚑𝗫𝗵𝗲 and Bakugo jumped into action, 𝚑𝚑𝚞 grabbed the wall, trying to find the rest of the class. Thankfully she found them. While in this state, she felt 3 energies about to attack her and immediately jumped onto a stepping stone, blasting 2 of them with each hand and jumping down from the field to kick the third one's head. She saw 2 about to attack Bakugo from behind and created a bubble around the 2. They punched the bubble, building up the potential energy. She then aimed the kinetic back at them, blasting the 2. 64 Finally, after what felt like hours but was probably minutes, it looked like the fight in there was over. I think that's the last of these guys, Bakugo breathed. Weaklings. 17 Alright, let's hurry up and find the rest of our class, 𝚑𝗫𝗵𝗲 stated, turning off his quirk. If we're spread through the USJ, then everyone else probably is too. 1 I tried to sense our classmates' energy within the facility, 𝚑𝚞𝚞 informed the 2. Did you? 𝚑𝗫𝗵𝗲 asked, breathing from fighting a little. We gotta make sure they're safe, since we screwed things up earlier. 5 You guys did. I tried to protect you too, and yes I did, they're all still here. 𝚑𝚞 sighed a breath of relief, her shoulders heaving up and down. If you want to go find them, then go, Bakugo grunted. I'm gonna go find that 𝚑𝚑𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘 idiot, Kirishima rebuked. 2 maybe, but I could probably get to him, YN added in, stepping towards them. His warping is somewhat energy-based, maybe I could fight him. 15 No, we need to make it up to and help our classmates. I'm gonna take him down cause he's their way in and out, they'll be stuck here and have to pay for what they did. Bakugo fumed. Suddenly, YN's eyes began to glow a light blue and she created a force field behind Bakugo, letting the incoming villain hit the field and letting it down again for Bakugo to take him out. 2 Anyway, if these villains were small fries like these were, then our classmates can handle them, Bakugo calmly said, throwing the villain to the side as if he were a light stuffed animal. 9 That was insane you too, Kirishima awed at the teamwork. Also, since when do you act so calm and rational, Bakugo? 51 Yeah, I'm confused. 2 𝚬𝚐 added. 1. I'm always calm and rational, you red-haired loser. Bakugo screeched. 129. Yeah, there you are. Kirishima pointed to him. We should go, 𝚬𝚐 said, wiping her nose. Her quirk was being exerted beyond its limit. But she wasn't tired, even though there wasn't much daylight. Go find the others if you want to, Bakugo said, beginning to walk away. Wait, hold on, Kirishima added. I think what you're really saying is that you believe in our classmates, and that's thinking like a man, Bakugo. 72. I think if we plan to help take down the 𝚬𝚘, we should think of a way to get there in time, 𝚬𝚘 pointed out. We can't use Bakugo's blast since they're too loud and can't support all three of us, and we can't run there in time. So what do you propose, 𝚬𝚐? Bakugo asked, turning back towards her. 39. I think you'll like it, 𝚬𝚐 told them, her eyes glowing slightly. The three ran down and out the building quickly, getting to the entrance of the collapse zone. Stay close to me, don't get 4 steps behind. 2. What do you mean? Bakugo started before the three of them had walking stones. 1. Okay, that's cool, Kirishima ordered the stones as they started running behind 𝚬𝚐. I can see why you use these. This is fun. 2. Well, it's fast and we'll get there without too much worry, 𝚬𝚐 responded, looking back a little as she ran. 1. The three got above the area the 𝚬𝚘 had just teleported. They saw that Midoriya was getting ready to punch the man holding Asui's head. Once he did, a huge blast came over, breaking lights and blowing people away. 𝚬𝚐 quickly grabbed Bakugo and Kirishima and pulled her onto her now larger stepping stone and created a force bubble to protect them from the powerful blast. Plus, once it was over, 𝚬𝚐 let down the bubble and the three ran down behind a pillar, seeing that Midoriya didn't do any damage. Then, as if it was in slow motion, the villains were about to attack. The doors then swung open. And All Might appeared. All Might? 𝚬𝚐 gasped quietly. He's here, Kirishima whispered. Is that a good thing? 𝚬𝚐 whispered while asking, turning from the fight to face Kirishima and Bakugo. I mean, their plan was to get him here to kill him. What happens if they succeed? What if 5? She was cut off by Bakugo covering her mouth with his bare hand. 𝚬𝚐, shut up. It will be fine. 281. 𝚬𝚐 nodded and Bakugo took his hand off of her mouth. The three turned back to watch the fight, seeing that All Might had already sped down there. He was fighting the big bird brain and causing huge explosions. All they could do was hide behind the pillar since the force fields would draw attention to them. 17. That was when the three saw that the 𝚬𝚘 had created a portal to counter All Might's attack. When Midoriya was running after them, the 𝚬𝚘 appeared in front of Midoriya, causing Bakugo to spring up and explode the 𝚬𝚘. Kirishima and 𝚬𝚐 soon followed suit. Todoroki had frozen the Nomu holding All Might, allowing him to get free. Kirishima attacked Tomura Shigaraki, but he had dodged. 𝚬𝚐 used her quirk to try and close the portals, touching the ground and trying to send energy through it towards the portals. 8. Guess I found your body that time, you smoky 𝚬𝚐. Bakugo scoffed as he held down the 𝚬𝚘, Kurogiri. 17. The symbol of peace will not be defeated by the likes of you, Todoroki calmly said. 30. Kaken, 𝚬𝚐, everyone, Midoriya gasped, beginning to tear up at the sight of them. 71. 𝚬𝚐 had finally used her energy to get a grip on the portals. Got it, she grunted, beginning to try and close them, causing her nose to start to bleed again. 106. Kurogiri, how could you let this brat get the best of you? Shigaraki hissed. 64. You used your quirk's miss to try and hide your body as a kind of distraction, that's why we missed, Bakugo explained. But if you didn't have a body, you wouldn't be wearing this neck armor, right? You're not immune to physical attacks if they are well aimed. Your portals aren't safe either. We're about to close them, you smoky 𝚬𝚘. 4. Kurogiri tried to get up to stop 𝚬𝚐, but Bakugo created little explosions on his metal neck plate. Don't try anything funny or I'll blow your butt up so bad that they'll be piecing you back up for weeks. 86. That doesn't sound very heroic, Kirishima commented. 79. Just don't. Let him go. 𝚬𝚐 strained, beginning to close the portals. 9. They escaped uninjured and captured my 2 strongest men, even closing our way out, Shigaraki realized. Kids these days really are amazing, they make the League of Villains look like amateurs. 𝗵𝗠𝗅. 8. Then the 𝗵𝗠𝗅 managed to get out of the portals just before 𝚬𝚘 was able to close them, she cursed her slowness. The 𝗵𝗠𝗅's arm and leg fell off due to the ice but was still moving, leaving 𝚙𝚠𝚠𝚗 and Midoriya shocked. 9. How is that thing still moving? Midoriya asked while watching it. Stay back everybody, All Might yelled, putting his hand out to protect them. As the 𝗵𝗠𝗅 regenerated and Shigaraki explained that it had multiple quirks. 𝚬𝚘 got up, getting on a stepping stone and wiping the BLD from her nose. 14. First we need to free our method of escape, he said. Get him 𝗵𝗠𝗅. No. 𝚬𝚘 screamed, jumping in front of Bakugo and creating a force field. 6. The 𝗵𝗠𝗅 hit All Might, who had jumped in front, and the force field. 𝚬𝚘 was launched to the side, as the field broke and the pressure pushed her. She landed a few yards away from the group, her head and nose bleeding now. 31. 𝚑𝚘𝚗. 𝚬𝚘 Midoriya yelled, seeing the 𝗵𝗠𝗅 holding 𝚑𝚘𝚑. For then the group saw Bakugo on the ground right next to the group and 𝚬𝚘 a few yards behind, groaning and attempting to sit up. 𝚑𝚘𝚗. Whoa, that's awesome, you dodged him, Midoriya exclaimed, seeing him safe. 7. What? No, shut up, I didn't, you 𝚑𝚗𝚗 nerd, Bakugo snapped. Wait, where's 𝚬𝚘? He looked around, trying to find her as he spotted her somewhat limp body. 16. Oh, she groaned, getting up and walking over. 1. Wait a minute. How did you end up over there? Kirishima asked. 10. Bakugo got up and ran to 𝚬𝚘, who was holding her now bleeding head. He helped her over to the group. 2. 𝚬𝚘, are you okay? Midoriya asked, seeing the BLD 11-9. Fine. She breathed out. 56. Then the group looked over and saw All Might against the wall in a blocking position. These are kids and you didn't hold back. All Might gasped out. 62. I didn't have much choice, he was threatening my companion, and the girl was about to take out our escape route. Besides, they aren't little angels, Shigaraki started. The plain one over there, he tried to kill me with a maxed out punch, or something like that. You think you can get away with being as violent as you want if you say it's for the sake of others. Well, you know what, All Might. That 𝚬𝚑 me off. 132. As Shigaraki continued to talk about violence, 𝚬𝚘 kneeled down using her quirk to try and find a way to help All Might and beat them. 5. You're nothing but a lunatic, All Might responded. Criminals like you try to make your actions sound noble. But admit it, you're only doing this because you like it. 40. We've got them outnumbered, Todoroki declared calmly. 8. And 𝚑𝚗𝚗 found the mist guy's weakness, Midoriya added. 6. These guys act really though, but we can take them down with All Might's help, Kirishima concluded. Let's do this. 1. Don't attack, All Might commanded. Get out of here. You would have been in trouble earlier if it weren't for me, Todoroki pointed out. You need our help. 47. I thank you for your assistance, but this is different, All Might prepared for the fight. It's going to be all right, just sit back and watch a pro at work. 24. 𝚬𝚘 stood up, leaning against Bakugo for support from the previous attack. 42. You're hurt and bleeding and you're almost out of tea, Midoriya stated, cutting himself off as he looked at the group around him. 𝗵𝗠𝗅, 𝚑𝚑𝚗𝚗𝚗, kill him. I'll deal with the children, Shigaraki said. Let's clear this level and go home. 37. Heads up, we're fighting after all, Kirishima said as he got in a ready position. 2. Then 𝗵𝗠𝗅 attacked All Might, them punching each other and causing a huge wind burst and blowing things back. 𝚬𝚘 quickly put up a force field, shielding the group as much as possible. 4. He's gonna fight that brain guy head on. Midoriya asked. Whoa, they're so fast, Kirishima stated. I don't know how much that bird brain can take, 𝚬𝚘 questioned as she dug her feet into the pavement. 23. As the fight continued, 𝚬𝚘 put down the field, kneeling from exhaustion. She watched the fight go on, trying not to get blown away from the wind forces from their punches. All Might then threw the 𝚵𝚠𝚅 to the ground, the group looked in awe. 2. Go beyond, plus ultra. All Might screamed as he hit the 𝚵𝚠𝚅 with all he had. 12. That was like the finishing move in a video game, he beat the shock absorption right out of him. Kirishima exclaimed as he looked at the hole in the ceiling. I've never seen that kind of brute strength. For imagine have power like that. Bakugo helped 𝚑𝚘𝚞 up from the ground. He must have been punching that monster so fast he couldn't regenerate. 26 You've been bested villains, All Might said as he turned to Kurogiri and Shigaraki. Surrender, we all want to get this over with quickly. 11 As Shigaraki seemed to be thinking and scratching his neck furiously, All Might asked, what's wrong? Didn't you say you were going to clear this level earlier? Well, come and get me, if you dare. 6 Man, this is intense, Bakugo stated, holding 𝚑𝚘𝚞 up with one hand around her waist and her arm around his shoulder, supporting her up. 172 As I expected, there's no reason for us to fight now, he'll handle this, Todoroki said. 13 Come on Midoriya, let's regroup with the others, the last thing we want to do is get taken hostage or get in his way, Kirishima said, signaling to go. 25 If only 𝚤𝚘𝚞 was here, he'd rush you right now and pin you into the ground without giving it a second thought, Shigaraki whimpered as he scratched his neck furiously. 79 Tomura Shigaraki, do not threat, Kurogiri said. Look at him. He has definitely weakened, those attacks were successful. He's on his own and the children appear to be frozen in fear, and look, the underlings are recovering. We likely have a few minutes before reinforcements arrive. 10 As the group turned around, they saw the underlings waking up. All Might can handle his own, let's take care of these guys before they can hurt anyone else, Kirishima said as he turned on his quirk. 𝚑𝚘𝚞 leaned off of Bakugo, her eyes and hands beginning to glow light blue. Then Midoriya launched into the air at the warper. Shigaraki had his hand warped to almost touch Midoriya's face. No! 𝚑𝚘𝚞 screamed, shooting a blast at the portal, forcing Shigaraki's hand to be pulled back. Then the pros arrived there to save the rest of the class. 17 𝚑𝚞𝚞's arms hung limply. Even though she was in the daylight, she was exhausted. Her quirk was used so heavily used that day a day she'll never forget. 34 As Shigaraki and Kurogiri had escaped, the pros came in to retrieve the villains and the students. Bakugo saw 𝚑𝚞𝚞 about to fall over and ran over, grabbing her arm and putting it on his shoulders again, using his bare arm to wrap around her waist. 26 It's over, 𝚑𝚞𝚞, he calmly told her. It's over. 183 Thanks, 𝚑𝚞𝚞 breathed, trying to get into a good standing position as she leaned against Bakugo. Yeah, whatever, he replied, tightening his grip on her waist a little. Are you going to be okay? 114 Honestly, 𝚑𝚞𝚞 started, looking up from the ground at him, I don't know. Hey guys! Kirishima yelled as he ran to the group. They said to go up and join the rest of our class. Can you walk, 𝚑𝚞𝚞? Todoroki asked her after hearing Kirishima. 42 With a little support, yeah, I think so, she responded, leaning against Bakugo. 9 They began to walk up to join the rest of the group. 𝚑𝚞𝚞 looked up for a minute at Bakugo, which he noticed her stare. 1 What? He asked, looking back to her. It's just, she started, looking down at the ground, I didn't know you were that concerned about me. 7 Well, I mean, you're someone who's been in my life a long time and aren't totally irritating, he reasoned, looking to where they were walking. He let out a groan. Ugh. Fine, I'll admit it. 103 𝚑𝚞𝚞 looked up at him, a slight tint coming to her cheeks as she realized how close their faces were. Admit what? You've grown on me, 𝚑𝚞𝚞, Bakugo confessed, looking back down at her, and she could have sworn he had a slight pink tint to his cheeks as well. 191 As they reached the top, Uraraka came running over to 𝚑𝚞𝚞, seeing how beaten up she was. LN. Oh my god, are you okay? She asked, looking at 𝚑𝚞𝚞's bleeding head. 73 She was launched by that bird brain while trying to protect me, Bakugo answered as he readjusted his grip on her. She overexerted her quirk while fighting. 27 𝚑𝚞𝚞 sighed, hearing Bakugo while holding her up honestly made her feel safe. Normally, she didn't like people doing this kind of thing since her powers help her travel quickly and quietly, but Bakugo made it seem okay. 1 Let's check her out, one of the paramedics that came in said. 153 Bakugo helped her over to one of the ambulances, he stayed instead of going back with the class. The paramedic just bandaged 𝚑𝚞𝚞's head, cleaning it first since it wasn't a bad cut. The cleaning liquid stung a little, causing her to hiss in pain, which made Bakugo spin around. He was about to yell at the paramedic when he felt her hand grabbing his shoulder instinctively. Quite honestly, it was kind of sweet. 2:16 Once they were done checking 𝚑𝚐𝚐 out for more injuries, the paramedic let her out, going to the front to drive off. She got off, stumbling and losing her balance for a second. That was when Bakugo had grabbed her arm, pulling her up before she could fall, which led her to be at his chest, looking up at him. '38 God, you just can't stop falling into me, he growled, the both of them seeming to reminisce back to when her had fallen on him on the bus ride to the entrance exam. 150 Well, you seem to be able to catch me every time, 𝚑𝚐𝚐 retorted, standing back up. 59 That was when the both of them heard a familiar awe. Their heads both shot in the direction of the sound, just to find 𝚑𝚘𝚏𝚗 there. 251 What? 𝚑𝚑𝚐 asked. I was coming over to get you two to join the class again, 𝚑𝚘𝚏 said, almost jumping up and down from the sight of the two of them. But I guess I was interrupting something. 20 Nothing, Bakugo snarled, letting go of 𝚑𝚑𝚐, you were interrupting nothing. 24 Then he went off to the rest of the class, leaving the two girls alone. So, 𝚑𝚘𝚏 said, linking her arm with 𝚑𝚑𝚐 to lead her back to the rest of their class. Does this mean you two are? 𝚑𝚑𝚐 No. 105 No, we're not together, 𝚑𝚘𝚏. 𝚑𝚑𝚐 shook her head. Do you want to be? 202 This made 𝚑𝚑𝚐 stop in her tracks, yanking back 𝚑𝚘𝚏 slightly. Her thoughts swirled as she thought about all the times her and Bakugo seemed to save each other, or end up in each other's arms. Then she thought about when the paramedic was cleaning her head before bandaging it, how when it stung she instinctively grabbed Bakugo's shoulder. She didn't even realize she did it until she opened her eyes from cringing from the pain. 150 𝚑𝚘𝚏. LN. Come on. Ida yelled to them, waving his arm for them to hurry up. 4 All right, that's 20 students, not counting the one that went to the hospital, the officer said after 𝚑𝚘𝚏 and 𝚑𝚑𝚐 joined the class. 10 So, you actually didn't answer my question, Ellen, 𝚑𝚘𝚏 continued in a hushed tone since they were with the other students now. Do you want to be together with him? 15 𝚑𝚐𝚐 started, not sure how to answer the rather complicated question. 3 It must be a yes of some kind if you can't answer, 𝚑𝚘𝚏 pointed out. 72 𝚑𝚐 just nodded, her feelings somewhat coming into place now. 5 Let's get these students to the main campus, they've been through a lot, the officer said. While the class asked about Mr. Aizawa, 13, Midoriya, and All Might, 𝚑𝚐's head swirled. Her thoughts coming into place, like puzzle pieces. The officers then told the class that they were about to take them back to the school. But before she went with them, she saw Bakugo staring at the hole left by All Might, and walked up to him. 9 Are you okay? She asked, putting her hand on his shoulder. 2 Yeah, he grumbled. Come on guys, we're going back to class now. Kirishima called out to the two of them. Yeah, I heard him, you idiot, Bakugo responded, grabbing 𝚑𝚐's wrist and dragging her with him to the bus. Thurn, you know you don't have to drag me, 𝚑𝚐 groaned as she was barely able to walk behind him. Plus, yeah, well clearly you can't get there yourself, he responded, not looking back. On the bus ride back, 𝚑𝚐 sat with Bakugo again. She was rubbing her head, feeling the bandages. A couple students had asked her what happened and all she said was that she bumped her head during the fight, which wasn't a lie. She did bump her head. After getting her force field punched by a Nomu and thrown by All Might while protecting Bakugo. 78 After they arrived back at the school, they were walking back to their class to grab their backpacks and cases to take off their suits. 𝚑𝚐 grabbed Bakugo's arm, holding him back while the rest of the class entered the classroom. What? Are you dizzy again? He snapped, turning to her and away from the door. No, I just... 𝚑𝚐 started, not knowing what to say immediately afterward. What? I just wanted to say thank you, 𝚑𝚐 finally blurted out. 5 Here. He grew confused by her sudden thanks. For what? You protected me most of the time. 3 For helping me after those times I did try and protect you, 𝚑𝚐 explained. I haven't seen that side in a really long time. 1 She smiled, thinking back to the time the bully shoved her down the slide and Bakugo and Midoriya went to help her up when they were only 4. Then she blushed a little, and grabbed his shoulder, kissing his cheek and walking into the classroom. 521 𝚑𝗏 tried to hide her blushing face as she grabbed her case to walk to the locker room. Bakugo just stood there with his mouth open in shock. He touched his cheek where she had pecked it and blushed slightly. He went in and grabbed his case, going to the locker room to change. 123 I'm sorry, you did what? 𝚑𝚘𝚘𝚗 exclaimed in the locker room after 𝚑𝗏 told her quietly what she did before grabbing her case. I'm sorry, you did what? 𝚑𝚘𝚘𝚗 exclaimed in the locker room after 𝚑𝗏 told her quietly what she did before grabbing her case. 34 Shh quiet. Okay, yes, I pecked his cheek, 𝚑𝗏 said in a hushed voice, blushing a little at the thought of it. 16 And what did he say or do? I went in the classroom before I could find out. Oh man. He probably would have kissed you, 𝚑𝚘𝚗 whined, again too loudly. 84 Who probably would have kissed you, 𝚎𝚘𝚏 asked, hearing 𝚑𝚘𝚘𝚗's exclamation. 96 Oh. 𝚑𝚑 started, not knowing how to respond. Maybe it was one of the boys she hangs out with, 𝚑𝚑𝚗 suggested. Was Midoriya or 𝚑𝚑𝚗 about to kiss you, 𝚎𝚑? 111 What? No, they're just my friends. She denied. Well, think about it, 𝚑𝚘𝚘𝚗 started. What other boy does she seem to hang out with and be close to a lot? Who could she possibly have those feelings for? Think about who she wrangles or protects. 103 Oh my god, 𝚑𝚘𝚘 whispered. What? 𝚑𝚑𝚗 asked. Do you know? Oh my! 𝚑𝚘𝚘𝚗 exclaimed quietly. 19 Who? 𝚑𝚑𝚗 asked once again. It's gotta be Kirishima. 𝚑𝚘𝚘 exclaimed. 390 This caused 𝚑𝚑𝚗 to snort, leaving the girls clueless why she was laughing. Oh my god, you guys are close but wrong still. 18 Guys, 𝚬𝚐𝚐 interjected. It's clearly Bakugo. 230 Arg. Zoo. 𝚑𝚑𝚗 exclaimed, waving her arms to get her to stop. 21 Wait, what? Bakugo. 𝚑𝚑𝚗 exclaimed. That makes sense, 𝚑𝚘𝚘 said, pulling on her jacket. She wrangles him the most and is seen hanging out with him a lot. Heck, he helped her when she got hurt at the USJ today. 3. You got me, 𝚑𝚑𝚗 sighed, defeated. I pecked him on the cheek and Ochako thinks he would have kissed me if I had stayed instead of immediately going into the classroom. 77 Well, clearly he has a soft spot for you, 𝚑𝚘𝚑𝚗 pointed out. How long have you known each other? Most of our lives, 𝚑𝚑𝚗 explained. We grew apart once he got his quirk but still talked from time to time. After the sludge incident maybe around 10 months ago, we started to get close again. So now you think you love him? 𝚑𝚑𝚗 inquired. 38 What? I wouldn't say love, just maybe feelings for him right now. 35 She loves him, 𝚑𝚘𝚘 confirmed. I don't know how you can maybe feelings that screaming mess, but whatever happens. Just know that we're ready to end him if he hurts you. 247 We've only known you for a few days, but we don't want anything bad to happen to you or anyone in this group, 𝚑𝚘𝚘𝚗 added. 64 Thanks, you guys, 𝚑𝚑𝚗 said, feeling really cared about at that moment. One as the normal four, 𝚑𝚑𝚗, Midoriya, 𝚑𝚑𝚗, and 𝚑𝚑𝚘𝚗, were walking back from the school. 𝚑𝚑𝚗 turned to 𝚑𝚗𝚗, what did you do to Bakugo? 107 What do you mean? She asked, quirking her eyebrow. 3 In the locker room, he was dead silent and blushing, 𝚑𝚑𝚗 explained. When Kirishima asked what was wrong, he just said feelings. 642 Wait, what? 𝚑𝚑𝚘𝚗 almost screamed. LN, do you know what this means? No. 𝚑𝚑𝚗 responded as she shook her head slightly. Wait, are you and Kaken dating? 𝚑𝚑𝚗 Midoriya asked, growing very confused by the ensuing conversation. 76 No, but they should. 𝚑𝚑𝚗 exclaimed as she clapped her hands together. She's basically the only one that keeps him calm and he has a soft spot for her. She also will do so much to help and protect him. They are perfect. 44 Whoa, 𝚑𝚑𝚗, 𝚑𝚗 said, signaling her to calm down. I don't think the word perfect fits. 10 You should at least try and talk to him tomorrow, 𝚑𝚑𝚗 said. He seems to feel something for you, especially if you made that maniac silent. 114 Fine. I will. Since that day students were given the day off, it was perfect for 𝚬𝗏 to try and talk to Bakugo. She decided to spend the day at her grandparents' house since they lived so close to Bakugo's home, also so she could tell them about the progress she's making with her quirk. At around 6 in the morning, she woke up to get her bag and go to her grandparents since she didn't know when and if Bakugo would be running or not. 12 I could text him, but would he text back? She thought. No, I'll just talk to him in person. 10 𝚬𝗏 was walking to her grandparents, looking at her phone when she saw Bakugo running across the street. For should I talk to him? She thought, attempting to avoid making eye contact with him. Would that be creepy? 2 Then she missed her chance when she saw he was already running back. She sighed and finished the walk to her grandparents' house, arriving at around 6:30 a.m. She had spent the day with them, telling them about her progress in training and the USJ incident the previous day. 2 So, you and Katsuki seem to be getting close, her grandmother pointed out. 118 Yeah, I guess so. 𝚬𝗏 shrugged. Should we be expecting a romantic date in the future? Her grandfather asked, wiggling his eyebrows as he spoke. 174 No, I don't know how he feels, we haven't really talked about feelings. Ever, she responded, blushing slightly at the thought of it. 3 Later in the day, 𝚬𝗏 had to change the bandage on her head when her grandparents informed her that they ran out of gauze a week before and needed to get more. She suggested she go get some from the nearby convenience store and she'd grab some drinks as well if they wanted. 10 After agreeing and giving her some money to go buy them drinks and gauze, she grabbed her backpack and left the house. Right as she was closing the gate, she felt a hand grab her shoulder, causing her to spin around. 5 Gs, sorry, I forgot how jumpy you are, Bakugo said, letting 𝚬𝗏 relax a little, seeing his familiar face. I saw you this morning during my run and figured you'd be going to your grandparents' house. 8 That seems a little creepy. 44 Well, clearly it wasn't to see me, he shrugged, rubbing his hand against the back of his neck. 45 Actually 𝚬𝗏 started before being cut off by her grandma out the window. 3 Katsuki, is that you? She yelled. 7 Yeah. It's me, he responded, chuckling a little as he noticed 𝚬𝗏's obvious embarrassment, relishing in it as he played along in the little game. 6 Are you here to take our granddaughter on a little date? She asked, leaning against the windowsill. 215 Grandma. 𝚬𝗏 yelled, waving her off and grabbing Bakugo's arm, dragging him away from the gate. 4 What did your grandma mean on a little date? He asked once she had stopped dragging him. 6 I told her about USJ and my quirk process and she thinks we're together now. 𝚬𝗏 shrugged, realizing what she said and immediately turning beet red. Not that we are. Does she know that you pecked my cheek yesterday? He questioned, turning a little red at the memory of it. 146 No. Well then why does she think we're together? 3 I honestly have no idea, she laughed. I'm going to the convenience store to grab drinks and gauze, wanna come? 17 Sure, why not? Not like I have anything better to do, Bakugo said, beginning to walk with her to the store. 11 So. Do we want to talk about what happened yesterday? 𝚬𝗏 asked, looking up at Bakugo. 32 What's there to discuss? You pecked my cheek. Bakugo shrugged, sticking his hands in his pockets. 14 Ida told me. What did that stuck up? Bakugo began to bark before 𝚬𝗏 put her hand on his shoulder. 45 Ida told me that you were dead silent and blushing in the locker room, she explained. He told me that Kirishima tried to ask what was wrong and all you said was feelings, he finished. Yeah, I know, what about it? 8 Did what happened short-circuit your brain? 87 What? No, I'm fine. 6 As they arrived at the convenience store, 𝚬𝗏 went to get gauze, grabbing it and then walking to the sodas. Are you sure you're fine? She asked, picking out the sodas. 3 I was just tired, Bakugo grumbled, looking away from her and avoiding eye contact. Hey, you two, a random voice said, pointing out 𝚬𝗏 and Bakugo in the convenience store. What? Bakugo growled. You two were students in the USJ attack, right? The stranger asked. Yeah, we were. So what about it? It's just so cool that you kids were able to hold your own against a bunch of villains, the stranger continued. I saw you were holding her after the fight, are you two together? 270 No. The two yelled at the same time. YN looked up for a second and saw Bakugo slightly blushing. 3 Okay, I don't know how much I believe that, but thanks anyways, the stranger said as he walked away. 90 Why does everyone assume we're together? Bakugo almost yelled, leaning against the shelf. 33 I don't know, YN responded. I have no idea. 8 I mean, would we even be good together? We'd just slow each other down. 246 What do you mean? She inquired, growing more curious about his statement. I mean, you've got an insane quirk and you're pretty, and I'm going to be the #1 hero. We'd just be in each other's ways. 328 Wait a minute, is that what you think? Also, did you call me pretty? 12 Yeah, I do and I did. I just don't want us, if we ever hypothetically did get together, to get in each other's ways, you idiot. 37 That's not how relationships work, dummy. 1 You don't think I know how a relationship works, he barked at her, YN putting up her hands as a silent way of telling him to calm down. 12 Based on what you told me, no I don't. Relationships are meant to help support each other, not tear each other down, she explained in a calm voice. We'd support each other and help make the right decisions, protecting each other when danger occurs and working together. You make it sound like we're already in a relationship, he grumbled slightly. 161 That's clearly what many people think though. She shrugged. After YN paid for the gauze and drinks, the two began walking back to her grandparents' house, the words from before just hanging in the air. Once they reached her grandparents' house, they stopped at the gate. 1 I'm surprised you didn't fall, you idiot, Bakugo commented. 9 I'm surprised you didn't get angrier, she rebuked. 9 I'll see you at school tomorrow, he asked, beginning to walk away. 9 Yep, see why then, YN said, waving as she went into the yard and inside the house. Did you see the news last night? Hagekyu asked Ojiro and Shoji. 5 YN walked to her seat, remembering the news and how that stranger in the convenience store came up to her and Bakugo. We're totally famous, Kaminari stated, leaning back into his seat. Those news channels love us, we're basically celebrities. Yeah, kinda crazy, right? Kirishima added. Get over yourselves. The hero course that pumps out pros was attacked and that's all that they care about, Gyro rebuked. I wonder what would have happened if the teachers hadn't shown up, Zero questioned, putting his head in his arms. Why would you say that? I'm gonna pee myself just thinking about it. Mineta whined. 147 Oh shut up, grow a pair, loser. Bakugo yelled at Mineta. 105 Katsuki, geez, calm down, YN told him, kicking the back of his seat. 59 As Soto and Tokoyami discussed All Might, Ida ran in, telling people to sit down even though he was the last one in the classroom. I wonder who'll teach class today, YN questioned out loud, leaning her arm against her desk as she pressed her chin against her hand. I have no idea, Midoriya answered. Good morning class, Mr. Aizawa greeted as he entered the classroom all bandaged up, almost looking like a living mummy. 38 Whoa, what a pro. Kaminari commented. 1 Mr. Aizawa, I'm glad you're okay. Ida said, raising his hand. 19 I'll be alright, what's more important is that your fight isn't over yet, Mr. Aizawa announced to the class. 3-hour fight. Bakugo questioned. You're kidding, right? YRN asked, growing nervous. Don't tell me, Midoriya added. Not more bad guys, Mineta quivered. 16 The youth sports festival is about to start. Mr. Aizawa finally said, the class basically letting out a simultaneous sigh of relief. 29 Yes. Kirishima exclaimed. Let's go kick some 172 Wait a second, Kaminari interjected, smacking Kirishima's face as he cut him off. 17 Is it a good idea to hold the sports festival so soon after the villains snuck inside? Gyro asked. 10 They could attack us once we're all in the same place, Ojiro added. 8 Apparently this is a way to show the school is fine and safer than ever, Mr. Aizawa explained. Besides, we're beefing up security compared to the last years. This event is a huge opportunity for all students at U, not something we can cancel because of a few villains. 9. Why not? It's just the sports festival, Mineta nervously asked. Mineta, this is a way to get scouted by pro-hero agencies for the future, 𝚑𝚐𝚐 explained. 52. Our sports event is one of the most watched events in the entire world, Mr. Aizawa discussed. In the past it was the Olympics, then Quirk started appearing, now the Olympics have been drastically reduced in terms of scale and viewer size. For anyone that cares about competition, this one is the only one that matters. 2 top heroes and the world will be watching, 𝚑𝚐𝚐 stated, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. 116. As the class discussed how you could be scouted and become sidekicks, 𝚑𝚐𝚐 began to wonder who would be interested in someone whose powers cause them a nosebleed if they're overexerted. 131. If you want to go pro, then this is an important event. 1 chance a year, 3 chances in a lifetime, Mr. Aizawa stated. No aspiring hero can afford to miss this festival. That means you better not slack off on your training. 2. As lunchtime was about to start, 𝚑𝚐𝚐 was talking about the festival with Kirishima and some other classmates. As lunchtime was about to start, 𝚑𝚐𝚐 was talking about the festival with Kirishima and some other classmates. I'm actually a little worried if anyone would want my quirk set, 𝚑𝚐𝚐 said, rubbing her head. I mean, who would want someone whose nose bleeds if they overexert themselves? 63. Ellen, don't even. Your power is literally the coolest and probably one of the most powerful, Kirishima told her. 48. Thanks man, that means a lot, 𝚑𝚐𝚐 said, smiling at him. 33. I said I'm gonna do my best. Uraraka screamed as she turned to the group 𝚑𝚐𝚐 was talking to. 12. Okay, she muttered, confused by Uraraka's exclamations and screaming. 5. As 𝚑𝚐𝚐 was talking to Kirishima about the festival, Bakugo came up and joined them. Hey losers, what are you two so excited about? 17. We're just talking about the festival, she explained. We're talking about some of the other students and how we could counter against them, Kirishima added. 2. What happens if you go against each other? Bakugo asked as he crossed his arms. Well then. 𝚑𝚐𝚐 started, rubbing the back of her neck as she thought of an answer. Then we'll just do our best, Kirishima finished. So who's left standing? I mean, it'll give us new chances, 𝚑𝚐𝚐 added. See who's better than who I guess. I'm curious how you would do against Todoroki, Ellen, Kirishima said, facing her. He's powerful and got good control of his quirk, but you've got more uses and daylight. 7. I mean yeah, and I practiced a bit with my quirk yesterday, and I discovered that the hardest thing I can break through without giving myself a bloody nose is concrete, 𝚑𝚐𝚐 told him. Granted, it was an accident how I figured it out, but now I know. 1. Wait. Bakugo stopped her. Did you accidentally blast part of your grandparents' statue yesterday? Maybe. How did you know, Katsuki? 9. 'Cause the head landed in my front lawn. 508. Oh my god, I'm so sorry, 𝚑𝚐𝚐 apologized, beginning to turn beet red. Wait, your house is kind of far from my grandparents' house. I mean not travel far, but blast far. It got that far. 1. I guess so. Bakugo shrugged. You can run over after school and pick it up if you want. 54. Yeah, I'll just go home with you and drop to head off on the way home, 𝚑𝚐𝚐 planned with him. Wait, you guys know where each other live? Kirishima questioned. 2. I mean, we've known each other long enough, 𝚑𝚐𝚐 told him in a nonchalant manner. 1. Man, you guys are really close, Kirishima commented. No wonder you can keep him under control as well as you can. I guess so, she answered, looking at Bakugo who was staring off into space. 19. Why the heck are you all here? Uraraka questioned the group that had appeared in front of the class's door, possibly the entire first-year class gathered into one spot. Why the heck are you all here? Uraraka questioned the group that had appeared in front of the class's door, possibly the entire first-year class gathered into one spot. 2. Do you students have some sort of business with our class? Ida followed up. 7. Why are you blocking our doorway? I won't let you hold us hostage. Mineta proclaimed. 55. They're scouting out the competition, idiots, Bakugo declared. We're the class that survived a real villain attack. As he walked up to the door, 𝚑𝚐𝚐 grabbed her bag and ran up behind him. She knew this could go very wrong, very fast. At least they know what a future pro looks like. Now move, extras. Bakugo yelled at the group. 8 Katsuki. YN yelled, spooking him since she was dead silent in moving behind him. Are you kidding me? She turned towards the group, sheepishly announcing to them, sorry about that. 13. So this is Class 1A. One of the students, Shinso, started as he pushed past the crowd. I heard you guys were impressive, but you just sound like an but. Is everyone in the hero course delusional, or just you? 𝚑𝚘𝚗 stared wide-eyed at both the student and Bakugo, looking back and forth between them. I was sad to come here and find a bunch of egomaniacs, he continued. I wanted to be in the hero course, but like many others, I was forced to choose another track. Such as life. I didn't cut it the first time around, but I have another chance. If any of us do well in the sports festival, the teachers can decide if they want to transfer us to the hero course, and they'll have to transfer people out to make room. 35 Bakugo glared at this general studies student, YN grabbing Bakugo's arm so he wouldn't attack him. Scouting the competition, he continued once more, maybe some of my peers are, but I'm here to let you know that if you don't do your very best, I'll steal your spot from right under you. Consider this a declaration of war. 4. Say something and you'll just fan the flames, YN whispered into Bakugo's ear. 13. You should listen to her, Shinso said. She seems to know what she's doing. 146 Hey you, another student, a more metallic-looking one, yelled. I'm from Class 1B next door. We heard you fought some villains and I came to see if that was true. But you're just a bunch of brats who think you're better than us. Talk all you want, it'll just be more embarrassing once you're 𝚑𝚑𝚗𝚗𝚑. Bakugo then grabbed YN's wrist, pulling her behind him as they began to walk through the crowd. 5 Hey! Don't ignore me. The same metallic-looking student continued yelling. 1. Dude, where are you going? Kirishima rushed over. You gotta say something, it's your fault they're all hating on us, Bakugo. These people don't matter, Bakugo plainly responded. 31 Here. Kirishima and YN questioned simultaneously. The only thing that's important is that I beat them, Bakugo continued. 6 That's called fanning the flame, YN told him through gritted teeth. Hey, I'm coming for you, the metallic student declared to Bakugo once more. Bakugo then continued to get through the crowd, pulling YN along with him. Dude, you were so calm, she said once they were finally out of the large crowd. 3 Why wouldn't I be? I'm always calm, he responded, letting go of her wrist as they walked together. 172 No, you said that at the USJ and were proven wrong immediately, she pointed out. Well, what matters in the end is that I place first. I mean, that's a pretty good goal to have. She shrugged as they walked down the stairs. I wonder why those students already seem to hate us. Thought. YN sarcastically thought for a moment and acted like she had a light bulb moment. Oh yeah, it's because you lit a fire that we're not gonna be able to put out. 1 They're just weak extras, Bakugo calmly responded. 1 You are seriously scaring me now, dude, she said as they got to the entrance gate. I'll see you tomorrow, man. 48 Yeah, see you tomorrow. As the two parted ways, neither of them knew the new chances they would have in the sports festival. 165 As the days passed and the students trained, YN really hadn't had a lot of time to think about her and Bakugo's feelings. All she could focus on was getting better for the festival. What are you gonna work on first, Ellen? Kirishima asked as they were walking towards the practice area. 2 Well, since my quirk is gaining new abilities, I was thinking about working on the newer and weaker ones since the things like blasts, force fields, and stepping stones are easier to do now, she responded, pulling her hair back. 1 Like what? Well, I've been able to create bigger force fields and been able to move objects around on top of them, she explained, gesturing with her hands as they got closer to the area. Hey, maybe we could help each other with that, Kirishima suggested. How so? 1 Well, why don't you throw large rocks at me, practicing with your quirk, while I break or dodge them, practicing my quirk, he suggested, making his arm hard as an example. 2 That's actually a really good idea. What are you two idiots talking about? Bakugo asked, walking up to the two of them. 67 We're helping each other practice our quirks, she told Bakugo. I'm using my quirk to throw rocks at Kirishima while he breaks and/or dodges them with his quirk. 4. The festival isn't about teamwork, but we are going against other people, so it's not a terrible idea, Bakugo stated, shoving his hands into his uniform pockets. 10. Wow, that's so nice, Kirishima said, tears welling in his eyes as he clenched his fist. So manly. 37. YN rolled her eyes and looked at Bakugo. You know, I could throw rocks at you as well and you can blow them up. 15. No thanks, Bakugo snarled slightly. I'm good practicing on my own. 82. After a few days of practicing, the day of the festival was there. After a few days of practicing, the day of the festival was there. YN grabbed her small bag of hair ties, making sure to bring a lot so she didn't forget, and a couple energy bars. 14. Good luck, sweetie, her dad said as she walked out the door. We'll be watching. We're so proud of you. 156. Thanks, Dad. YN waved as she left the house, walking to school where they would meet to then go to the main arena. After getting to school and the locker room, YN was grabbing her suit when she closed the door, seeing Uraraka right there and causing her to yelp. Oh my god, Uraraka. You scared me, YN gasped. Sorry, she responded. I'm just so pumped for today. Me too, man, YN said, grabbing a hair tie and pulling back her hair. Although I am kinda nervous. 9. Because you might have to fight Bakugo. 35. What? No, she denied, shaking her head. It's just, ever since the USJ fight and I hit my head, my quirk has been super strong lately. Like, levels I don't usually use were so much easier. 26. What's wrong with that? I'm worried I'm either gonna max out my quirk way too fast or my quirk is gonna evolve in the middle of the match. 116. What do you mean evolve? Uraraka questioned, slightly scared of the answer she may receive. 2. My quirk is so versatile, I have no idea of the limits. I mean, you know how my hands and eyes glow. Uraraka nodded, knowing how they work. Well, sometimes it gets brighter or travels more up my arms, she continued to explain. I don't know what's next in my quirk. 22. I think you might gain some new abilities, Uraraka responded. But let's not worry about that right now, just focus on the festival and win. 6. Yeah. YN yelled as she followed Uraraka to the 1A waiting room. The two girls entered the room, and as YN began to look around the room, Uraraka winked as she nudged her towards Bakugo. YN shot her a quick glare and then went to sit down next to him. Hey, she greeted him. Hey, you remembered a hair tie this time, Bakugo said, pointing to YN's hair. 13. I'm not completely useless. She shrugged while looking at him. You ready for teach everyone get your game faces on? Ida yelled, entering the room as he swung the door open. We're entering the arena soon. 15. Midoriya, Todoroki said as he walked up to him. 50. Hey Todoroki, Midoriya responded. What's up? 11. Bakugo had looked over to the two, which caused YN to follow his gaze, seeing the interaction. From an objective standpoint, I think it's fairly clear that I'm stronger than you, Todoroki stated, causing YN to narrow her eyes, nervous of what may follow. 2. Yeah, Midoriya agreed. 68. However, Todoroki continued. You've got All Might in your corner helping you out. I'm not here to pry about what's going on between you two, but know that I will beat you. 44. What's with all of these declarations of war? Kaminari nervously chuckled, causing Kirishima to get up and put his hand on Todoroki's shoulder. Foya, what's the big deal? Kirishima asked. Why are you picking a fight all of a sudden, and right before we get started? 2. Todoroki threw off Kirishima's hand. We're not here as friends, don't forget this isn't a team effort. 22. Yeah, but what's the problem? YN asked, pressing her hands against the table. Wait a sec, Todoroki, Midoriya said, stopping Todoroki as he began to walk away. I don't know what's going through your head, or why you think you need to tell me that you'll beat me, and yeah, of course you're better than me. In fact, you may have more potential than anyone in the hero course. That's why you got in so easily. Izuku, don't say that, YN said, starting to get up from her seat. We're all good in our own ways. 23. You may be being a little 𝚑𝚘𝚗 on yourself and us man, 𝗑𝗫𝚗𝚗 added. 2 No, he's right, you guys, Midoriya continued. All the other courses, they're coming for us with everything they've got. We're all going to have to fight to stand up. And I'll be aiming for the top, too. 1 Well then. 𝚑𝚘𝚗 said as she leaned against the table. For 𝚑𝚗 said as she leaned against the table plus as fast as they got there, it was time to enter the arena. 𝚑𝚘𝚗𝚔 was announcing all the classes, talking up Class 1A quite a bit. While the crowd cheered, 𝚑𝚗 began to feel a sinking pit in her stomach and where she got hit on the head began to slightly hurt. But my head's healed. Why does it still hurt? She thought as she entered the field. 75, you okay, Ellen? 𝚑𝚑𝚗𝚗 asked. Yeah, I'm fine, she replied, focusing on the arena and her classmates. 𝚑𝚘𝚗𝚔 sure did talk us up a lot, kinda making me nervous. How are you feeling, man? 𝚑𝚑𝚗𝚗 asked Bakugo, turning towards him. I'm not worried, Bakugo grinned. Makes me want to win this thing even more. Yeesh, nothing stops you, man, 𝚑𝚗 commented. 30 As the rest of the classes entered, 𝚑𝚗 rubbed her head, a slight headache beginning to come on. 48 Now the introductory speech. Midnight announced, gesturing to the arena. 1 Someone should talk to Midnight about her apparel, 𝚑𝚑𝚗𝚗 said, feeling uncomfortable. That suit should really come with a warning, Kaminari added. 3 Did no one tell her that this was a first-year event? 𝚑𝚗 asked, looking down at the ground as her cheeks turned slightly pink. 196 Silence everyone, Midnight commanded. And for the student pledge, 𝚑𝚗𝚘 and Katsuki Bakugo. 57 As the two began to walk up to the podium, Midoriya asked, they're the first-year representatives. Well, LN and Bakugo did place first and second on the entrance exam, Zero reasoned. Also, LN needs to keep that hothead in check. 13 After the two walked up the stairs, Bakugo stood to the right of the MIC while 𝚑𝚗 to the left. 2 I just wanna say, he started saying into the MI, I'm gonna win. 62 Katsuki. 𝚑𝚗 exclaimed, hitting his arm. Are you kidding me? 14 As the crowd and the first years began to boo at him, Ida exclaimed, why would you be so disrespectful? You're representing us all. Not my fault, the rest of you are just stepping stones to my victory, Bakugo said while turning around and giving them the thumbs down. 20 It's sorry about that, 𝚑𝚗 said into the MI he's just excited. 2 As the two walked down, 𝚑𝚗 shaking her head from that horrifying moment, Ida continued to babble angrily while waving his arms at Bakugo. He bumped into Midoriya, walking past him. 𝚑𝚗 stopped and whispered to Midoriya, something's up with him, right? 1 Midoriya just nodded, the two of them knowing that something was definitely wrong with Bakugo if he just said that without even a small chuckle. 9 Without further ado, it's time for us to get started. Midnight exclaimed after the crowd calmed down a little bit. 3 I wonder how this is going to go, 𝚑𝚗 whispered to 𝚑𝚑𝚗𝚗. I have no idea, especially since all the other classes are coming after us thanks to Bakugo, he answered. I have no idea, especially since all the other classes are coming after us thanks to Bakugo, he answered. Then the first challenge was selected, an obstacle course. As the challengers got ready, being given the go-ahead to use quirks in it, 𝚑𝚗's eyes began to glow, her quirk getting warmed up in the daylight. The course then began, the entire year started to run into the gate. Right when she got into the tunnel, she grabbed a nearby shoulder and launched herself up into the air, creating stepping stones and running above the crowd as fast as possible. Suddenly, a huge ice blast came and froze anyone who was on the ground. 𝚑𝚗 launched herself forward so she wouldn't get caught in the ice. 𝚑𝚒𝚘𝚗𝚑. Bakugo screamed as he launched himself into the air, 𝚑𝚗 breathing a sigh of relief. Wait, why am I relieved he got out? Here's my competition, she furiously thought while she continued to run. 15 She was snapped back to reality as Mineta was launched by one of the large robots from the entrance exam. But she didn't have to worry too much as Todoroki froze them with ease, off their balance though. She created a force field to protect some of the students that were close to the collapse, causing quite a stir. 6 Hey, there's someone trapped under that robot, someone exclaimed. What? I thought I protected everyone. 𝚑𝚘𝚞 thought as she began to run again. 𝚑𝚑𝚤𝚘 then popped out from under the robot, leaving 𝚑𝚘𝚞 to breathe with a sigh of relief, remembering the training they did together. Then another student popped out from under the robot, one that looked like it had a similar quirk to 𝚑𝚑𝚤𝚘. What are the odds? 𝚑𝚘𝚞 thought, chuckling a little to herself. 29 She continued to run, clearing the robots and hitting the ground running. Behind her, she could hear explosions and others behind her. She briefly looked back to see Bakugo, 𝚬𝚘, and Tokoyami. Once she reached the chasm part of the course, she just jumped up and used her stepping stones to run across the obstacle. She easily completed the obstacle. Bakugo had gotten slightly ahead of her as he was just blasting by, screaming at 𝚬𝚑𝚗𝚑 𝚑𝚑𝚘𝚑. 23 𝚑𝚘𝚞 giggled slightly at his reactions and continued running. Then she reached the final obstacle, a flashy pink minefield. Thank God for a appealing day, she thought as she glided across the field on stepping stones. Thanks to her quirk, she had barely passed 𝚬𝚑𝚗𝚑. She playfully winked as she passed him. CYA 12 That was when she heard a familiar scream, it's over. Bakugo had come flying at 𝚬𝚑𝚗𝚑, 𝚑𝚘𝚞 just continued running, trying to stay ahead. She looked back, seeing the two were coming full speed, too fast for her to stay ahead. So when the two were fighting, she jumped up, over their heads and right behind them. Come on guys! 𝚑𝚘𝚞 exclaimed, creating a little force field between them. 5 𝚑𝚞𝚞, don't stop me! Bakugo exclaimed. Then a huge pink explosion occurred in the background, causing the three to stop and turn back. She created a little field to protect the three from the push and debris. We may be competing, but that doesn't mean I want you guys to get hurt, she proclaimed as she held up the field, looking up to see Midoriya flying through the air. Izuku 12 That was when Midoriya flew into first. Bakugo and 𝚬𝚑𝚗𝚑 stopped fighting, Bakugo catapulting himself using his quirk and 𝚬𝚑𝚗𝚑 creating an ice path. 𝚑𝚘𝚞 was not far behind as she used her stepping stones again to run across the field. It was a good thing she was a little behind too, cause Midoriya caused another mine to go off, sending him flying into the lead. Katsuki! 𝚑𝚞𝚞 yelled, seeing how close he was to the mines that went off. For she then saw 𝚬𝚑𝚗𝚑 and Bakugo come out of the pink smoke, sighing with relief and running faster, clearing the field and bolting for the end, not far behind the top three. Midoriya then crossed the line first, 𝚬𝚑𝚗𝚑, Bakugo, and 𝚑𝚞𝚞 not far behind. After crossing the line, she took a minute to breathe, her hands were shaking from using her stepping stones so much. She then walked over to Bakugo, who was holding his wrist. Is your wrist okay? She asked, walking up to him. 3 I'm fine, he grunted, gripping his wrist tightly. I can't believe that nerd beat me again though. Yeah, that was reckless, 𝚑𝚞𝚞 admitted as she crossed her arms. Why did you come back to stop me and that 𝚑𝚑𝚗𝚑 from fighting? You were ahead. Yeah, I guess I was, 𝚑𝚞 said, scratching the back of her neck. I think the second I saw 𝚬𝚑𝚗𝚑 freezing your arm, I don't know. Weren't thinking, he growled. Yeah, kind of, she responded, looking back at him. I just couldn't watch you get hurt, Katsuki. I care more about you than winning. 89 See what I mean, Bakugo stated, putting his arms down. Relationships just get in the way of each other. 289 That's not it. She shook her head. I saw you in a fight and I came to either help you or stop it. I protected you when Midoriya did the first blast, right? That's what the first game for the first years is finally over, and what a game it was. Midnight announced. Let's take a quick look at the stats, shall we? 2 𝚑𝚞𝚞 had managed to get 4th in the obstacle course, which was higher than her expectations. Only the top 42 will advance to the next round, Midnight announced. Now the real fun is about to begin, the chance to fully move yourselves into the limelight. Give it your best. To the second competition, a cavalry battle. Midnight then explained the rules. While she listened, 𝚑𝚞 began to think about who she would want on her team, or maybe she'd let the teams pick her. Once Midnight announced that you couldn't knock other teams down on purpose, Bakugo scoffed, causing her to look over and shake her head no. 5. Once the time started to pick teams, people began to swarm Bakugo and and fellow students were starting asking him to be on his team. "Wanna be on a team?" he asked, turning to and "Wait, what?" she questioned, a little shocked. "Don't make me ask twice," he groaned. 62 Sure, she responded after getting her head out of the shocked state her put her in. 4. That was when people started to get more desperate for him to pick them to be on their team. "Remind me what your quirks are again, and your names." 11. You're kidding me, right? YN facepalmed. "We're your classmates," Ashido exclaimed. "Can you really be that self-centered?" Soto asked him. 40 Bakugo. Kirishima waved, coming to the crowd. Todoroki already picked his team, so hey, we should team up. "Hey dumb hair," he greeted plainly. 20 My name is Kirishima. "And my hair's not that different from yours," Kirishima pointed out, pointing between himself and Bakugo. "Come on, you want to be the rider, right? You'll need a strong front horse that won't be hurt by your blasts, that'd be me." 63 I was planning for YN to be in front since she can create force fields, Bakugo explained. 10 No, actually Kirishima is a better pick than me, YN stated, pointing to Kirishima. "He can stay in his quirk form. I can't continuously make force fields, otherwise I'd get tired and get a nosebleed and either pass out or have weaker blasts. I can be one of the side horses, I can still create fields and do blasts and stuff from there." 10 The group ended up being Bakugo, Zero, YN, and Kirishima. "Sorry Ashido, love you but I need this spot." Zero was the left wing, YN the right. And Kirishima was the front while Bakugo was the rider. 255 Let's get them, Bakugo said, cracking his knuckles as the countdown began. 3 Begin. Midnight yelled, allowing for the competitors to start running. As their team ran, YN began to think about how she could help get other point bands. "I could try and use a force field to try and pull off headbands," she strategized. "But that would require my hands, and I can't afford to drop Katsuki." 23 Brace. Bakugo yelled to his team and he propelled himself into the air after Midoriya's team. "Kaken!" Midoriya gasped. "Don't think for a minute you're safe." Bakugo yelled, reaching for their band. "I've got you." "Tokoyami!" Midoriya called out, trying to block the grab. One dark shadow went and blocked Bakugo's attack, causing him to begin falling back to the ground. And then created a small stepping stone to make it easier for Zero to use his quirk to pull Bakugo back to the group. "What the hell was that?" Bakugo asked as he got pulled back to his team. After about 7 minutes since the battle started, the scores were put up and it was revealed that their team had 0 points. That was when they discovered one of the Class 1B students had stolen their band. 3 Your class is too small-minded, the thief commented. "Think bigger." 61 He got it. YN exclaimed. "He was too quick for me to sense." "What did you say?" "Come back here." Bakugo angrily exclaimed. "Ellen, can you try and grab the bands using your quirk?" Zero asked. "I've been trying, but he's too far, he has to be in my eyesight," she explained, looking up towards an angry Bakugo. 2 Midnight said the obstacle course was just the first game. Monoma, the thief, continued. "And we figured they wouldn't cut that many of us right off the bat, would they?" 17 Bakugo growled, turning to him. "Assuming they had 40 contestants for the next event, all we had to do is make sure we stayed within that group as we ran," Monoma explained once more in a condescending manner. "From the middle we could watch your quirks and capabilities. Only a fool would obsess over winning the preliminary rounds, wouldn't you agree? You planned this as a class?" Bakugo asked him, allowing YN to move her hand just enough to begin to grab one of their point bands, trying to grab the 250 band. "It wasn't totally unanimous, but I'd say it's playing out well." "Hey, they're coming," one of his teammates whispered as some other groups began to run towards them. "Hey, you're kind of famous for being attacked by that sludge villain," Monoma noticed as he pointed towards Bakugo. "You'll have to tell me about it sometime. It must be strange to always find yourself in the role of the victim." 3 You're all talk for someone who doesn't watch their back, YN sniped, her eyes coming back from their quirk color. "What?" Monoma asked carkily, looking down at YN. You were there, too. You're always there to protect him, aren't you? 𝗬𝗏𝗏 Bakugo growled, causing the team to look up at him. We have a change of plans. Before we take down Deku, we're going to kill every one of these B-listed idiots. Calm down, Bakugo, 𝗑𝗏𝗏 told him, seeing Bakugo about to freak out. You've got to keep a level head or we'll never get our points back. As 𝚑𝚘𝚞 began to grab the band finally, 𝚑𝚞𝚏 turned around slightly. He grabbed the band before it was out of his reach. Well, that's something, he commented, putting it back on and looking down to 𝚑𝚘𝚞. You've just shown one piece of your quirk, that'll be interesting to work with. 3 Bakugo then screamed in anger, causing a small explosion in his fists. Shut up, he yelled to 𝗑𝗏𝗏. I've never been calmer, can't you tell? Now get after them, 𝗑𝗏𝗏. 15 Please don't make us regret this. 𝗑𝗏𝗏 told him, beginning to run. As Bakugo reached for the band, 𝚑𝚞𝚏 dodged, touching him slightly, causing a small explosion on Bakugo's face. Ha! 𝚑𝚞𝚏 laughed, looking at the damage. Wow, I see why you like this quirk. 11 Weird. That guy has your quirk. 𝗑𝗏𝗏 exclaimed. Then Bakugo tried another attack, 𝚑𝚞𝚏 blocking it with 𝗑𝗏𝗏's quirk. You both have impressive quirks, 𝚑𝚞𝚏 told them in a mocking manner. 6 What? Mine too. 𝗑𝗏𝗏 exclaimed, seeing the form. He's a copycat. 𝚑𝚑𝚏 exclaimed after watching the interaction. That's why I couldn't tell the intensity of his quirk energy, he uses others. 5 Wait, what? Bakugo asked. When you were up in the air, I touched the ground quickly to sense the quirk energies, she explained as she looked up towards him. His was either weak or multiple people's quirk energy. Very good, 𝚑𝚞𝚏 taunted. So, you're not just a one-trick pony. I wonder how many I could get with your quirk. 2 Don't let him touch 𝚑𝚑𝚞, Bakugo exclaimed. That must be how he's able to copy the quirk. 28 Don't worry about me. 𝚑𝚑𝚞 reassured him. He has to touch me, so he can't copy if he touches the force field. 2 But don't you need your hands to do that? Bakugo asked her. 6 I only need one, 𝚑𝚑𝚞 told him, focusing back on the battle. Then they began to charge once again, but were stopped by another student who spouted basically glue. 𝚑𝚑𝚞 quickly put up a force field to protect the group. 3 Stop them. Bakugo yelled. Move back and then we can go. If I let go now we'll be covered in this slime, she told the group as she kept her hand up. While they dealt with the sticky situation, Bakugo could only angrily watch as their competitors started to get away. 8 No hard feelings, right? 𝚑𝚞𝚏 asked as he mocked with a small explosion. After all, you provoked us. What was it you said in your little speech before the games? Oh right. 65 As it became only a minute left, their team ran towards 𝚑𝚞𝚏's. Bakugo instantly flew off, causing the team to yell to him, hey, don't just fly off on your own. 𝚬𝚗𝚘𝚘, stop him. 𝚑𝚞𝚏 yelled to his teammate, causing him to trap Bakugo in solid air. 7 𝗑𝗏𝗏 yelled to her. On it. She responded, throwing one of her hands out, blasting the air and instantly breaking it. She created a stepping stone for Bakugo to run off of instead of falling to the ground. 2 Bakugo grabbed a couple headbands, allowing for 𝚬𝚐 to use tape on him to bring him back. 1 Team Bakugo moves into 3rd place, present MIC announced to the crowd. 7 Yes. 𝚑𝚑𝚞 yelled, pumping her fist in the air before readjusting it. We're not stopping now. Bakugo yelled, beginning to bang on 𝗑𝗏𝚏's head. We're gonna be the indisputable champions of the game. 23 As the team got closer to 𝚑𝚞𝚏's, Bakugo told them, I couldn't brace myself to get back earlier, get closer. We'll get our points back from this idiot. Go for the big one. Do it. 𝚬𝚐 yelled. Elbow guy, tape them. Bakugo commanded. My name is 𝚬𝚐. 𝚬𝚐 told him as he taped in front of them. 36 YON, make a ramp to pull us. Bakugo commanded once again. 14 Got it, she responded, creating a ramp for them to jump off of once again. Bakugo propelled them across the ramp, 𝚬𝚐 pulling them. They were able to get right next to 𝚑𝚞𝚏's team. As 𝚑𝚞𝚏 created some solid area, which Bakugo destroyed easily, Bakugo snatched their points from them, getting their team's points back. 6 now, Bakugo started, having the team 𝚬𝚐𝚗 directions. We're going after Deku and Todoroki. 𝚬𝚘𝚗, blast the ice. 2 on it. She held out one of her hands, blasting the ice with an energy beam and created an opening. 3 Bakugo shot himself into the air once again. Deku. Bakugo. Kirishima yelled, seeing him flying. LN, what do we do?